No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. My name is Adam22. I'm in here wearing some Fashion Nova slacks that I'm very, very proud of. These things feel incredible. Anyway, obviously, there's been a lot of changes going on at No Jumper. A lot of it happening basically in real time. Situations that are, pretty out of control. And I have drawn together a crew of people today. When I say crew, I mean two people. Court, who has moved out to LA, and we were already planning on working together. And then Bootleg Kev, who I'm going to suggest is kind of like a substitute teacher in this role here, where I don't know, like
I accept your substitute teacher.
I just needed
designation.
I needed somebody to, kind of bounce stuff back and forth with, somebody who's maybe to a certain extent kind of like a independent person in all this.
Yes, fair enough.
Let me tell you how bad I feel for this guy. Because like I convinced him to move out here, and this is the kind of stuff that he showed up to.
The first day.
Wait, when did you get here?
I came straight here from the airport yesterday, and I was here, I want to say 3 hours before cracked off.
Oh.
Yeah, because he's been living in New York. And so I was very, very motivated to start podcasting with him at a certain point. Just seemed like it was kind of urgent. And a lot of stuff has been going on since. I feel like it's fair to the fans that we kind of break it down in more depth. I don't know how closely you've been following this.
Yeah, so obviously I've known AD for like 10 years. So from what I understand, you fired Lush on the stream because of I'm not even on Discord, but some Discord shit.
Let me explain this. So, okay.
Yeah, let's break it down, man.
Lush, we've told him many different times throughout his time here that he's been doing a little too much in terms of communicating with the fans. Now, I mean, obviously communicating with the fans normally is a good thing.
Right.
If I were to see you talking to people on Twitter or, anything like that, for the most part, this is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But with Lush, it had kind of taken on a different character where there was like multiple times or maybe just one time, I don't want to say multiple times, where he's kind of like said stuff in the Reddit that multiple of us, me, AD, et cetera, we had told him, this is not good. This is not a good use of your time. This is not something that you should be doing, basically, is like, going in the Reddit and like having these sort of like in-depth conversations and stuff. It's like he would like do a podcast, get a reaction live, and then immediately be in the Reddit responding to everybody. Right. Which, to be honest, like, it's just not necessary. It's like these people, they're going to talk about you either way.
Right.
You don't have to jump in there and just feed yourself to the sharks. And that really is ultimately how this kind of ended up. And then the Discord is like a whole nother problem because there's like little insular communities of people who sort of, have been grouping together and just talking about No Jumper stuff, talking about the drama, whatever. And for some reason, he felt the need to like get all up in that and just sort of be in these Discord calls with the mods and everything like that. And we had told him, like, this is a waste of your time. This is not, like, this is going to be bad for you. And I had even had other people who are in these Discord calls and stuff basically tell me that these people were essentially, not all of them, but a lot of these people on Discord were kind of like treating Lush like a lol cow. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the lol cow slang, but the basic definition, maybe I should just pull it up because I know I screenshotted it.
Not familiar.
Yeah, at all. They don't say that.
You never heard lol cow? Okay.
No.
Oh, okay.
For me, yeah, okay, yeah, I probably should have specified that it does come from LOL. But okay, the definition of lol cow on Urban Dictionary is a lol cow is a person you get extensive laughs from who doesn't think or who doesn't know that they're being made fun of. They can often think that they are admired for what they are doing, but secretly they are being laughed at constantly. Now, I'm not saying that Lush was that to us, but I think it's pretty clear that from what I know about some of his conversations in the Discord and stuff, that he was basically getting treated like that by some of these people who, to them, it was kind of like exhilarating that they had like an actual No Jumper host who was down to have 3-hour conversations late at night in the Discord with them.
So there's like this whole underbelly of No Jumper fans that are just in a chat room.
Yeah, and this one specifically was a voice chat.
Okay.
So I'm sure that he was popping into the Discord regularly. There is a No Jumper Discord that I heard has been absolutely surging since all this stuff happened. They just told me that like 6,000 new people joined this like in the last 24 hours or something.
Damn.
So this is kind of like back in the day when you'd go into like an MSN chat room or some shit about a topic,
Yeah, Discord like basically just allows you to create chat rooms and various kinds of chat rooms too, where you can have a voice chat,
Okay.
you can have just like a plan. There's rooms that are open to the public where like the main No Jumper Discord, if you were to go to it right now, is just going to be like 5 billion random No Jumper fans / people who are interested in this talking about
Right.
God knows what, right?
So these people are so dedicated to being fans of you guys that they're talking about it. So they're probably super excited that somebody who's actually a part of the shows is in there shooting the shit.
And probably if it was like someone like me or AD or T-Rel, who those people knew that we could control ourselves and that we would be acting in a responsible manner, it would have been probably a little less exhilarating or a little bit like, it wouldn't have been as fun for them because they wouldn't be necessarily of the opinion that they could get us to crash out, right? But whereas with the Lush thing, I feel like a big part, and I've heard this from some of these mods, a big part of what the appeal was that they were kind of like gassing him up, telling him different things, and like really, in this case, trying to get secretive No Jumper information out of him. So, full disclosure, for the last couple months, I had been contemplating in my head, is it possible for me to switch up the Tuesday show? The lineup had been for like 3 years. Me, AD, and for a while it was House Phone. Obviously, it was me, AD, at House Phone for years. Then a couple months ago, the House Phone thing kind of fell out, and so T-Rail filled in for I don't know, like 3-4 episodes or something like that. But this is something that I had been thinking about a lot, where I just had kind of like, as time went by, started to feel like me and AD didn't necessarily have the best podcast rapport. And I feel like a lot of people notice this in the chat, in the comments, in the sense that, it sucks for me to read comments on Sledgelords and see people saying like, wow, Adam seems like a totally different version of himself. He seems like he's having so much fun on here. And then the Tuesday show, people are like, Adam seems like he's just getting annoyed by the way that this conversation's going and everything like that. And it's just, like me personally, I started to kind of dread it. And we started to record it Monday morning instead of Tuesday night. And I felt like maybe that would help. Is like, okay, if I do this earlier in the day where I have more energy, maybe that'll change things up. It ultimately ended up just being like, I just kind of made the decision that like I have to switch up my cast, right? And I also kind of knew that it was very likely that if I told AD that I wanted him to just do the Wednesday show, that T-Rel as well would probably not want to stay on the Tuesday show, right? Because they kind of came to No Jumper together.
Right.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That could be kind of awkward. So, then, and this has nothing to do with Court, because Court did not cause any of this, for the record. But
I didn't even know.
when I met Court, I was like, this guy really is the type of dude that I think that I could build something great with on Tuesdays. I just, I feel like you have like a certain type of like comedic style / podcast style that was very attractive to me. Pause. And
pause that shit.
Yeah, I got to pause that. But, that was part of it, is like, I had been thinking about having this conversation with AD for a long time. Then I meet somebody that I actually think is really good for the role. And so I said to myself last Friday, I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to finally say something to AD about this. So I hop on the phone with him. We have the conversation. I wouldn't say he's like, he seemed a little hurt. Seemed like kind of confused, like he didn't see it coming, but he didn't seem like angry, Just seemed like, okay, like, like he took it fairly well, I think, but we didn't really talk after that until yesterday. Like, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we didn't talk. We were in the group chat though, and me and him were kind of exchanged, like we're talking in the group chat. We're talking about the Last of Us season finale and stuff, and we're having like normal conversations. So I'm like, okay, AD doesn't hate me, whatever. And yesterday, a big part of my plan for the day was like, okay, I got to find a nice little chunk of time so I can holler at AD and do a temperature check and see where he's at in terms of how he feels about the Tuesday show, the Wednesday show, No Jumper in general, etc. And so on Saturday, I made what turned out to be a mistake, which is that I texted Lush about this. And I also texted T-Rel about it. I told T-Rel on Friday, right after I talked to AD, because obviously everybody who's on the podcast should probably be in the loop about decisions that are being made on the podcast. And I had mentioned it to Lush briefly before and made it clear that like, okay, this is something that I'm thinking about. Then on Friday I told him, and then Saturday me and Lush had a conversation about it via text. And I remember this because I was at the mall in up north. And then so that was that then. And then Monday when I hit up AD, he says a couple things like right away that make me feel like, oh, fuck, he read my fucking conversation with Lush. That's how I felt when I first had this conversation with him, because there were like two different things that I had said in the conversation with Lush, and it wasn't a super long conversation, but there was two different things that I said that basically, as soon as AD reiterated them, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because either my phone is hacked or Lush fucking told AD. So I immediately go out to the office. I say, hey, Josh, go get Lush. Lush comes over. I ask him straight up, like, that conversation I had about AD, you tell anyone? And he just immediately just starts denying it, super hard. So then I start thinking about it a little bit more, and maybe like, a half hour later or whatever, because right after that, Lush goes in and records his verse on Gina Views' Bar City,
Yeah.
Bar City Sports show that she was doing. And normally, like, if I have something to say to somebody, I'm like, especially in a business sense, if I fucking want to fire somebody, it's usually going to go through my head for like a long period of time. Or if I just want to like tell somebody what I think of them. In a workplace scenario, I'm going to think about that shit a lot before I actually do it, because I know that the way that I feel in the heat of the moment might not necessarily be how I feel about it a couple hours later. So I want to always, try to give myself a little time to cool off and like really think about what I want to do, right? But, I had like 20 minutes to think about this shit with Lush, and I was still just so fucking annoyed and pissed off about it, because I basically, at that moment, it became clear to me, because I talked to some of these mods, that Lush had gone in this Discord group chat and fucking aired out the stuff that I told him in privacy on this Discord chat. Now, in his defense, his version of how this happened is that he's basically saying that this other guy on Discord, who I think he's a Discord mod, I thought he was a Reddit mod, it turns out he wasn't, but it's this dude Guilty. And he's not, I've never met him in real life, I don't know what he looks like. All I know about him is that I started communicating with him because he helped set up like one of the Destiny pods, I think, and like the Richard Spencer thing. He was like the one who had a line of communication with Richard Spencer and actually like got on the phone with him, or some shit, was texting him and made it happen. Same thing with the Nick Fuentes thing early on. So, I mean, he has connections to a lot of...
Guilty's a part of the alt-right.
That's the fuck I'm saying. He know a lot of the wild niggas, yo.
Right. But so you have Destiny, who's on the far, far left, and then you also have like Richard Spencer and Nick Fuentes or whatever. But like, I didn't have like a personal relationship with the Guilty dude aside. Like, I looked through my entire text log with him yesterday just to confirm.
Right.
The only things I ever spoke to this Guilty dude about were him booking podcasts, and he had sent me a bunch of like different links. Oh, check out this Ukrainian refugee. Maybe you'd want to have her on the show. Oh, check out this guy. He's a streamer. He's crazy. Like you would like to have him on the show. This sort of thing. Now, it turns out that AD has a closer relationship to the dude Guilty. Like, they had actually, I think, been communicating more. Like, they had kind of built a bit more of a rapport. Now, Lush's version of the story is basically that there was a Discord call, and that Lush maybe hinted at it and said like, oh, there's going to be some crazy stuff happening with No Jumper this week or something like that. And that Lush claims that Guilty then guessed that the Tuesday show was going to break up. Now, I don't know if I believe this, because why the fuck would Guilty just guess something that actually was about to happen, or that we had already had the conversation with? Now, the version of this that I'm kind of starting to get from the Reddit is that perhaps AD had hinted to Guilty that this was going to happen, because
you had already talked to him Friday, right?
Because I already told AD on Friday, yes, and then I told Lush on Saturday. At some point in all this, potentially AD might have either told Guilty or just hinted at it to Guilty, So that may have been true, but either way, Lush, like, Guilty in the Discord call, hinted at the fact that the Tuesday show, like that something might have been going on. Lush took that as, oh, he knows. AD told him, or Adam told him, and so therefore there's nothing wrong with me just saying everything that Adam said to me, which is stupid as fuck. And that's why Lush is not going to be on this podcast anymore, is because there's just like such an irresponsible way of handling yourself when I tell you something in confidence, that as soon as you get any idea that there might be other people who know about this, you just start spitting out like literally verbatim the exact things that I said to him. And for the record, the things that I had said to Lush about the AD situation, I didn't tell Lush about this until after I had already had the conversation. So I kind of resent the narrative that Adam was talking behind AD's back, because while what I said to Lush might have been slightly more harsh, it's not like I really said anything to Lush that I hadn't already said to AD both in person and on camera. Like the one thing that AD, I think, understandably was a little offended by was I said, I got to do this because I can't keep listening to the same 4 jokes over and over every week. Now, that is something anybody who watches the Tuesday show can confirm, is that that's a conversation that I've basically had with AD over and over on camera. It's the whole tick thing that I've kind of given him shit about over the years. That's basically just me acknowledging that, especially early on, that he had kind of a tendency to repeat the same joke over and over, oftentimes in scenarios where it didn't really make any sense. And I'm not mad at that, but that's the kind of thing where when I told AD, I feel like we have different podcasting styles and I feel like we're not really like a great podcasting duo. I mean, a more rude way of saying that would be to say, I kind of don't like this style of jokes or whatever the fuck I said to Lush about the 4 jokes, right? So basically, Guilty, as soon as he gets this information from Lush, he goes and tells AD everything. So by the time I hit up AD on Monday, he says, bro, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of hurt because of some shit that I found out. And he says those quotes, or something that essentially is close to those quotes, and I'm immediately just like, what the fuck? Like, I start tripping. I send AD the screen recording of my entire conversation with Lush, which I didn't have to do, but like AD, I didn't like the fact that he had this conversation with Guilty that made him feel like he knew that I had said some terrible shit. I was like, let me just show you exactly what I really did say, because I didn't think it was that bad, right? So I showed him, which was probably good because I think, transparency is good in this situation. I wanted him to know the exact things I said. Then, so I walk into the fucking podcast with Lush and I just tell him like, bro, I know what the fuck is wrong with you. And I just tell him like, you got to get out of here. That wasn't me firing him right there. Obviously, like being fired is a different conversation, but at least in that moment, I was like, I got to get you out of this fucking room, right? And and then from there, last night there was both Back on Fig and then Community. So there,
I saw the clip of the Community shit.
Right, for the fans, there were many, many, many hours of discussion about this. What I just did right there was probably like the closest thing to a nice condensed version of it for people to understand. But obviously, last night I hopped on the conversation with AD and Pun, and we had this conversation and everything. And, ultimately, it may be ugly how it kind of played out, because I know why it hurt AD's feelings. He was offended by the fact that somebody else, some random person, would have access to information about how this was all playing out before it was made public or anything like that. But, I also have to look at that and say, well, why am I not able to have a conversation with one of the co-hosts without them spilling the fucking beans? Like, I resent the narrative that I was talking behind AD's back, because the reality is that if we all have a podcast, right? Let's say we all been doing a podcast for 3 years together, and Bootleg Kev is doing something that I really don't like, and we've talked about it, and I've just decided like, okay, I gotta have this conversation with Bootleg Kev. I gotta tell him it's not gonna work out, and so I tell Courtney, yeah, I'm thinking about doing this. Is there anything wrong with that?
In my opinion, no.
Like, that is, you're telling me that in the Joe Budden podcast breakup, that when Maul and Rory were having feelings or whatever, that Joe Budden didn't go to Parks and say, hey, Parks, this is what I'm thinking. Like, this is, let me talk through the strategy of how this might play out. To me, that's not talking shit behind somebody's back. That's a bullshit narrative.
Well, just so we're clear, like the thing that is the shit talking is the same 4 jokes aspect, that comment, correct? Because you had already communicated to AD on Friday that you were going to be switching up the Tuesday show.
Yes. And to be fair, his plan, according to him, was that he was going to, I think just be real cool about it on camera, keep doing the Wednesday thing. And when it came up, because I even told him, I'm like, bro, I'm not trying to make this look bad, because obviously the optics of it are like the rough part, is that people are going to run with a narrative of like, look at how Adam doesn't fuck with AD or whatever. And that's what I told AD from the beginning. It's like, I want you to keep doing the Wednesday show. I want you to keep doing the food show, doing the news and shit sometimes. But in terms of Tuesday, I want to switch it up. And I'm going into this knowing that conversation is something that once it plays out on camera, a decent chunk of the fans and whatever might feel a certain type of way about it or take it in the most negative possible light, since that's a lot of the no jumper commentary that goes on is basically like taking anything that happens in No Jumper and just throwing the most negative possible fucking spin on it. So I'm prepared for that and I'm expecting that, you know? But yeah, then AD obviously and that's the other thing I keep thinking about is that if I had gone to Lush privately, what would AD have done on stream last night? I don't know that he would have even necessarily talked about it because it wouldn't have really seemed like he would have been the one bringing it to the forefront, right? For me, the reason why I told Lush that on camera was because I was just so upset about it and so pissed off at him betraying me that I just wanted to have the conversation publicly. And so now we're looking at this like, okay, well, how would this have played out if I didn't fire Lush on, or not fire, but if I didn't have this conversation with Lush on camera? So yeah, I guess that's probably the closest that I can get to sort of summarizing this in short form.
What I want to know is who the hell told anybody that I was replacing AD, because whoever said that, they knew before I did. For sure. I didn't know shit. I thought I was coming out here to be a sledge lord. I ain't sledge shit, man.
I told Lush.
That makes a lot of sense.
So
man.
Lush told the guilty guy.
If I'm not mistaken, or I might have told, I actually think I told AD as well. And I think I told T-Rel.
Well, that makes more sense because when I'm watching the stream yesterday, because I consume a lot of media from the No Jumper universe. So I'm watching Community yesterday. He's like, oh, Court is replacing me or something like that. And then Pun goes, who the fuck is Court? And I'm just like, oh, shit, man. I'm about to get packed out in our own Community merch. Like, this is crazy. And then I swear, I even picked out a hat. Like, I was like, I'm going to end up on Community. I might as well bring my Community hat.
Oh, my God. Get this motherfucker signed. We need a contract ASAP.
That shit is crazy, man, because, like, I'm just watching it, man, and I ended up with 100 followers overnight and stuff like that.
Not bad.
Yeah, but I thought it was going to be because I was funny, not because I'm in the middle
In the
of
long
some
run,
shit.
it will be because you're funny. In the short term, it will be because of all this bullshit.
Word.
So let me ask you this. Like, if you, obviously the live stream thing, it's a live situation. That's kind of, like you said, that might have been maybe what accelerated them talking about it on Community the way they did.
Yeah, because if I think AD's plan was to not talk about the plans for the Tuesday show on Community.
Maybe control the narrative a little bit more.
Yeah, or he was going to talk about it, but he was going to be kind of vague and just say like, okay, Adam decided to go in this other direction or whatever. And then once I had the conversation with Lush on camera, that kind of opened the floodgates for AD to feel like he could talk about this on Monday. And I mean, T-Rel had already talked about it on his shit as well. So
is this guy like actually fired?
Yeah.
Just not like in what you saw on camera. I feel like all of that shit happened after something like that.
Yeah, I mean, because I've been talking to Lush privately, and he wrote me a short novel earlier today, and I told him, I'm like he still wants to work with the channel and stuff. I told him, like, I can't trust you anymore. It's just not happening.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of that dude's like, identity is wrapped up in the No Jumper. He, I feel like anytime I watch him, he's just like, he's on the shit, man. Like,
in a way that was kind of different to me because, like, I remember there was a situation that played out a few months ago, right, where him and Flacco and Gina and Suspect were all going to be on the stream, right? And there was a ton of talk in the Reddit at that time, talk that I still don't know what the fuck I think of, but they were basically talking about maybe Flacco's not from where he says he's from. He's not really from North Dakota. He's from Delaware. He's from Pennsylvania, whatever. And I just told Lush, I'm like, bro, everybody's talking about this. You should raise this issue with Flacco, right? You should talk to him about it. And Lush ended up, in my opinion, kind of like antagonizing the situation longer and more than he had to. Like, there's a lot of different ways in which you could have that conversation with Flacco on camera. I ended up feeling like the vibe of it was a little bit cruel. And like definitely like, but then Lush also kept throwing me under the fucking bus during it, saying, "Oh, Adam wanted me to have this conversation." I feel bad, but Adam told me that he wanted me to have this conversation, which honestly, that kind of started to make me feel like this dude's a snake because you are your own man. I just told you to have the conversation with him, and then I was telling him as well, like if there's somebody that you have to call, like there was people who wanted to talk about him or whatever. I'm like, bro, just call him, like just get their thoughts on it or whatever. And like in retrospect, I don't think that was necessarily a good idea just because I like me trusting Lush to be able to have that conversation in a mature, responsible way might have been a little bit much to ask him at that time. But like that was an example because in the fallout from that, there was a shitload of people who were super mad at Lush and was basically like really, really angry at him and talking about it in the Reddit and everything and just saying like, this guy's a fucking dickhead. Why did he do this to Flacco? And keep in mind that like Flacco had been public enemy #1 in the Reddit the week before that. But then all of a sudden he became like a sympathetic figure because of the fact that Lush went through this
so
whole
hard
thing
on him,
calling him out or whatever. But either way, like after that,
It's like wrestling, dude.
yeah, dude.
In my opinion,
It's like Flacco, like he turned babyface.
yo,
yeah,
he
I've
was
been
a
thinking
heel.
of quite a few wrestling metaphors in my head as well.
I was about to say that shit changed Flacco for the better, man.
For sure. Because people hated, like for real, hated that dude. I remember like when he interviewed the camera guy and the dude spit on him. I think I hit you. I was like, who the fuck is this Flacco guy you got on this show? This new guy's a fucking goofball. But then he like DM, he's like, bro, you're fucking a legend. Like, I'm like, oh, this
Sounds
guy's
like
like a
Flacco.
sweetheart, you know? Like,
Nah, and that's one thing I love about Flacco. He's not scared to tell another man that he's doing good. There's a lot of pride in like just existing.
I saw a video yesterday. He's just eating Pringles.
Oh my God, right? Like, why do you have Pringles?
He's like, shit, he just had them ready. He's like,
Was it a mini tube or was it a full length?
it was a mini tube, I think.
I don't think he could get all the way into the full length tube. He might get stuck or some shit.
Well, we
like
all
that.
been there. Where you got to
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
shimmy it out.
Yep.
And try to catch it on the lid.
Nah,
For
yeah,
sure.
I poured the chips out after a certain point. I'm not trying to be a fat nigga stuck in a Pringle can. That's not gonna go down.
Yeah, you get your whole hand stuck in there.
So let me ask you this, Adam. Like, obviously, there's been like a lot of drama. I was telling AD this like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I was like, man, there's no jumper shit. It's stressful. Just from a I'm a content creator, but I do just like interviews. You know what I'm saying? And I do radio.
Like nobody has to know about your personal life,
Right.
Or your relationships with your friends or your
Or your
employees,
family or
all
none of that.
Yeah,
So
all
you-
that shit's off camera, and that's kind of the crazy thing. I'll let you talk, but that's the crazy thing that's happened with all this, where it's like the main focus of the conversation has just been the drama, and it's kind of hard sometimes to figure out like what we have to do to make that no longer the case. But I can say that I feel like the Lush thing and like him just taking everything so personal, that was definitely part of it, because it just like, he's just going on other people's streams nonstop to talk about no jumper drama and shit. And it's just like, bro, like, why is this necessary?
Yeah, I mean, just from like, because I'm a fan of the content. I watch it a lot.
Right.
He just seemed to be a little extra at all times. You know,
Very extra.
the
Yeah.
kind of guy who like will like he just wants to be liked. In whatever room he's in, he wants to be liked. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But-
And he was going hard. I'm gonna be real. Like he was working hard. He was like lining up interviews, having trying to be on every fucking podcast.
Because he started
possible.
on the like you did a battle rap podcast. It was a him and Disaster, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So like, because obviously, the business model of No Jumper has evolved. Because we used to just watch you interview everybody, right? And now you've kind of created it. I always say that you're kind of like the new Howard Stern, because Howard Stern had kind of created this universe of like characters, right? And so to me, you're kind of like the quintessential like new version of what like Good Morning Radio used to be back in the day, where like everything's on the air. You're sharing your personal. So like for you, is it a little like, how do you carry that stress, bro? Because like you said, like you fired a guy. Well, you didn't fire him, but whatever. There's been a lot of shit that's transpired on camera that some would argue shouldn't have been on camera.
I totally agree. I feel like all right, so let's rewind. Let's go back to pre-pandemic. So 2019, I was kind of in a weird spot with No Jumper, where the store thing, we already knew we were ending the store thing. There's a variety of reasons for that. We still want to do a store at some point, but the store thing was kind of ending, and that was a big part of the identity of No Jumper, is that it's the store.
Yeah, you could pull up on Melrose.
Exactly. And like crazy shit was happening. Like you just have motherfuckers posting up, playing guitar on the fucking corner,
Right.
and people pulling up and rapping in front, and like
J. Cole coming by.
yeah,
Oh,
and like
don't forget the guns.
the guy who ran down on me on the gun was a huge thing, and then the guy shows up the next day with a gun, and it was just, think about how crazy that transformation was for me, where I went from 2017, I was able to be in front of that store just chilling on some regular shit, and nobody would stop. Once in a blue moon, somebody would stop, take a photo with me, whatever, because of the interviews and stuff. But for the most part, I could just hang out, and it was all good. But then by 2019, it's like I gotta have fucking security. It's like I gotta have the homies with guns near me and shit. Like that just changed so much. And so we got another spot. We had another office that we were using throughout a large part of 2019 that some people will remember. And then coming into 2020, it's like the world kind of shuts down. And it all of a sudden becomes a lot harder for us to do our normal bread and butter of just cranking out interviews, right? And also, like, anybody who really pays attention to rap will be able to tell you that, like, 2019 or 2020 was not 2016 or 2017.
Right.
2016, 2017, I had a constant flow of new, exciting rappers that people were dying to see me have conversations with, you know? And, like, going into 2019, we're still getting some good interviews and stuff around that time, but it's also occurring to me, like, I can't focus my whole business on just interviewing rappers because it's not consistent enough. And there's all kinds of weird shit happening. You know, you can't control that. Like, when you want to talk to a certain rapper, sometimes they got a friend who don't like you, or they want them to go do this other thing. When I started doing interviews with underground rappers, let's be real, there was like hardly anyone doing interviews with underground rappers. I felt like I was barely competing with anyone at that time, because you would have some radio stations and stuff, but the radio station was like totally checked out on the underground
on
dudes.
that niche.
Vlad, I saw Vlad acknowledge the other day that, like, me coming in the game like that was partially due to the fact that Vlad didn't really pick up on what was happening with the SoundCloud shit until it was a little bit too late, you know? And now Vlad is somebody who's, like, probably a lot more open to interviewing a new up and coming rapper, where he wasn't necessarily thinking about that in 2016 or whatever. So, you know, we're going into the pandemic. We got to figure out something to do. And AD was someone we had already done a meeting with about working together, right? We had even done like a little test thing, him and this fucking random girl. It was not great because him and her were just awkward on camera. It was kind of weird, but you know, we decided when we got, because okay, so going into the pandemic, we got an offer to start a Snapchat news show, right? So I'm like, I need somebody to talk to. AD seems like he would be a pretty good fit. I'm gonna fucking holler at him. And so then all of a sudden, 2-3 days a week, me and AD are in the office doing the news together. So that's really like what we got started on. We weren't necessarily even going to do a podcast together or anything. It was just the news.
Right.
And so he's like super green to it because he just has never really done the podcaster thing. It was the news. But, you know, so meanwhile, we don't really have anything fucking going on. We have interviews here and there, but it's the pandemic. So it's like super terrible in that regard. And then over time, we start building a better relationship and, you know, doing stuff on camera. But over time, it also started to feel like the more people that I brought in, the more drama it was creating. And it's like a lot of people have the idea that the drama makes me a lot of money. And that is really like not how this works. You know, like if I look at our analytics right now, yesterday was probably one of the most dramatic, craziest fucking days in the history of No Jumper. And our analytics barely fucking budged. You know, it's like that shit. It's more like it's good content and it's a good amount of views for other people. It's not necessarily us. The Milk 7-4s of the world, they will get some views off talking about some shit that happened on here. But for us, like, our catalog is like, we're gonna do like 500,000 views like every day on YouTube based on just our back catalog. You know, like us introducing fucking all this drama and stuff barely fucking moves the needle for us. Like it's not something where I want this shit to happen. It's not like I'm motivated for it to happen. Really, like my goal for No Jumper is I just want to create a cast of people that I can talk to, that I can do different episodes with, and that other, you know, like in a perfect world that we'd be able to create other shows like At the End of the Day where I'm not on camera and everything. And for the content to largely kind of stop when the camera stops rolling, you know, where I don't really like for me at this point, my life is so different because when I talk about that beginning of the pandemic, I was broke. Like I was in debt because I had a previous business partner who really fucked me over and basically like over $1 million in terms of like leftover tax bill that I fucking had to deal with. So, you know, everybody probably was looking at me in 2020 like I had this dope business going on. In reality, it's like I was having to grind so fucking hard because I was digging myself out of a hole. And that's around the time that AD came around. And, you know, soon after that, thanks to like various social networking stuff and getting better, getting brand deals, all this stuff, we got to the point where the business was operating in a much better way. But I also like slowly just started to feel like I was kind of out of control with it, where it was just so much shit was happening and it wasn't necessary. Like, you know, like I'm sure everybody has seen it where it's like this thing that I'm describing where we could just kind of have good conversations here and then just move on and like, you know, go home and have our lives be kind of like separate from this. That slowly just started to seem like less and less of an actual opportunity. Look at, oh, I thought it was Duno, his icon. Sorry.
Oh shit.
Sorry.
You know, just don't know.
I really thought it was him. I'm like, oh, this is awkward. I'm talking about Duno right now. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I just feel like I'm at a different place in my life where all this drama shit just seems so fucking useless to me. And given like how yesterday played out, it's like I'm really just trying to think like, okay, how do I pivot this shit so that I can come in, make content, have conversations that I enjoy, and not have to fucking deal with just all this insanity that comes with it.
Yeah, it feels like it's the type of shit that you guys, everyone's taking home with them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, like, you know, you think about the Flacco situation or, you know, some of these fights. It just, you know, even the rap battle shit, it was like, that shit kind of got personal. You know what I mean? Like,
the rap battle seemed good at first because it was like, oh, this is a way for them to have their little differences with each other, but then not have it turn super personal.
right.
And that, I mean, I guess the rap battle shit didn't get like crazy personal, but it definitely, you know, it got a little bit too personal.
It didn't go as far as it could have gone though. Like I seen some shit in rap battling. So
Part of that is because Lush just every time he said anything about AD, he just prefaced it with like 5,000 caveats of like, I love you, I think you're great, you're the best rapper ever, which is like
I was gonna DM him all of that yesterday. That's crazy.
what, just saying the
I
same
love
shit
you,
that you've been
you're the
saying.
greatest
Great,
rapper.
you're
I
the best
think you're
rapper
great.
ever. Not, by
Yeah.
the way, not the greatest rapper ever. That guy's a terrible flow.
Lush?
Ooh.
Yeah, lyrically, it's
Oh
a cool.
shit.
I don't know, man. I
mean-
never heard him rap until the.
I'm not trying to talk shit about him outside of the stuff that I actually want to talk shit about him for, which is basically being a snake and repeating things that I told him in confidence to random people he doesn't even fucking know on Discord. And the other funny thing about it is that Guilty has disappeared from the internet. Nobody knows what the fuck happened to him after all this. So this Nick Fuentes fan popped in, caused insane chaos,
And just jumped off.
and nobody knows who he is, I don't think.
Interesting.
I think I'm going back to New York, man. That's the second person that disappeared. David Russell, this guilty guy.
No, Trevor's still here. Yeah.
Is it safe to say that? Okay, because can you attribute AD being the person that kind of kicked the door open for the current business model of like developing new talent, you being off camera more, and I kind of feel like you're like the No Jumper is going viral. As much as you have great interviews, like I just watched the Richard Spencer one, which I was like surprised. Like it was like a good conversation,
Debate.
whatever it was.
They keep trying to say I interviewed him.
No, you
I
didn't.
arranged a
You really
debate.
kind of sat there and let him and the blue hair dude talk.
And I just wanted to make that clear because when people are like, "Oh, you didn't say this to Richard Spencer or whatever," I'm like, if it was an interview, perhaps I would have done that.
But is it safe to say you can attribute the success of bringing AD into the fold to kind of like the I guess the Kickstarter to where No Jumper is now?
100%, because anybody who watches the channel knows that we had other people on the channel before.
Yeah, Bosco, Sada Baby. I remember a lot of
Right.
that
Or,
stuff.
well, Sada
Sada
Baby kind
Baby
of
was
came
doing
after
the
the
news
AD
for a little
thing.
bit, right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
only one time.
Oh, I swear
Maybe
it was
twice.
like, yeah, I thought it was like 2 or 3 times.
Now, the main people that were hosts, per se, before AD came around was like Robesman and then Cam Girl and House Phone.
Yeah, that too.
And to be fair, like the No Jumper show really like, the House Phone thing, like he had a fan base and stuff for sure in like 2019, 2020. But it wasn't until AD came on that we really kind of started to form like a closer and closer bond, and the podcast started to get better and everything. And then even beyond that, like he brought T-Rel around.
Right.
House Phone brought Duno around. But like, there was quite a few different people that AD brought around. So I'm not trying to like take away from that at all, because he definitely like seeing the way that the fans took to him kind of made me realize that the channel had more opportunities available to it than I previously thought. Because up until AD came on the channel, the vast majority, like 95% of the views that we were getting on the channel were from stuff that was basically just me on camera.
Right. You interviewing people.
Me going and doing a vlog. I was
Right.
just like kind of always the face of it. Now there were like some vlogs that we did where we like sent people out and like, vlogs that would do well. Cause it's like, if you put Trippie Redd or Lil Xan or whoever in the thumbnail,
Right.
it's going to do good regardless of me being there, which is dope. But AD definitely like made me realize like, oh shit, I can actually bring people onto this channel who aren't me, who aren't like me, in significant ways. Like he's fucking from Compton and he's got this gangbanging past and he's, a rapper, all these things that are like not like me. But it made me realize like, oh, we can bring people in and actually get the fan base to appreciate them. And so now like something like me bringing Court on, that like in 2020 would have been really hard for me to imagine, because I knew him back then, 2019, whatever. Like he was coming around the store, whatever. But I didn't know that I could like, maybe I just didn't have the confidence, or I kind of felt like everybody that I brought on had to be able to do exactly what I do. You know, like anybody I would bring on would have to be an interviewer. That they would have to be like really, really, really good at having the long form interviews. And then AD comes around and he's making it clear, like, I don't want to do interviews. Like, I'm just going to chill. Like, I'm going to have conversations on camera and stuff, but I don't want to be the interviewer, which I think is actually really good that he like kind of knew that about himself early on, you know? But yeah, AD definitely like kicked in the door massively. So I got to acknowledge that 100%. But then I think that when things started to change a little bit was because I encouraged AD to start his own stream, like in the beginning, because it had been suggested, and I kind of told him, like, you could be like academics. You don't have to be as messy as academics, but you could sit on stream, put your fucking head in the corner, play video games, talk about whatever's going on in your life, etc. And, you know, he did it, and it ended up being really successful, like way more successful than anybody else had ever been from No Jumper in terms of like creating their own content.
I mean, yeah, they just sold out the El Rey twice, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I feel like what that kind of did was it was dope because I have to wear two different hats in having this conversation. As a business owner and as a friend to AD and T-Rail, I have to look at that shit and just be like, bravo, you guys did exactly what I would fucking want you to do in that situation if I was coaching you, which is you get an opportunity from No Jumper, you get in there, do what you can, build up as much of a fan base as possible, but then also be building your own shit on the side. And because this was so new to us, we hadn't even got into the conversation of like, okay, maybe our contract should say this. Maybe our contract should, you know, make it so that they can't do extremely similar content on their own channel, which is kind of what it's turned into, where like a lot of times the stuff that happens on No Jumper
spills over to community.
And it will get like more views from them reacting to it or talking about it rather than it has for us, you know? So that was something that I didn't anticipate or that I couldn't have really expected for that people. And, you know, so now we have kind of like different types of contracts where it's like, if somebody's going to come on and be a part of No Jumper, it's like, I want you to create your own content and everything. But in terms of stuff that is like directly the same as No Jumper, or, you know, not to say this shit is exactly the same, but it's clearly like filling the same itch that we're trying to satisfy on here. We need to have some kind of control about how we deal with people. And I was having a conversation with somebody the other day who used to be a teacher, and I kind of filled them in on a lot of the details about this. And they said this to me. They said, listen, like when I go into a school, I can't start out as the cool teacher. I have to go in and be a strict ass teacher. And then when it comes down to it, if I want to fucking say a swear word or if I want to let them eat pizza in class or some shit, if I want to be a cool teacher, I have to like interject that after I've already set the baseline as being me being a very strict teacher. Now, I don't like mean to go too hard with the direct teacher metaphor here or whatever, but I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this is that I didn't set down any boundaries in the beginning. It was just like, here's a table, here's these cameras, here's these 4 million subscribers, do whatever the fuck you guys want. And to be fair, like in terms of it just being like kind of shocking and entertaining and crazy, I mean, that's definitely been what we got out of it, you know?
Right.
But also, it's like, having seen how this played out, I'm very confident that I would rather have a tight-knit, small crew of people making content together rather than having a big fucking crew where everybody's kind of doing their own thing and creating their own conversations that ultimately kind of poison the waters here.
Got you. So, okay, so initially you had kind of encouraged AD to do a stream, right?
Totally, yeah.
But you didn't have any sort of idea how big community could get.
No.
So it gets really big. But isn't that what you would want it? Wouldn't you want, like, if you're encouraging him to do it, wouldn't you want his shit to blow up?
No, totally, yeah. Like, I'm happy for him, and he knows that. Like, I've always, like, I even, you know, in recent times, like, I've given him advice. I just got him a fucking Snapchat show and shit like that.
Right.
Like, I've looked out for him. So the whole, like, idea that I'm, like, hating on what they've accomplished is not true at all. The reality is, anytime anybody said to me, like, you should be stopping what they're doing on Community or back on Fig. No, I've never felt like that. You could go watch the conversation I had with T-Rail about back on Fig. I'm proud of them and I'm happy for them, but also it's like I can't really let people do that again in the future, you know? But I have to respect them doing it because my contract that I had them sign in the first place did not prohibit them from doing it. So I can only respect it. I can't say like, this is fucked up that you guys did this and created your own platforms when I never had anything and I never said anything to them. I didn't have anything in writing and I didn't say anything to them to prohibit them from doing that. I gotta respect it, you know? So it's like,
Word.
if we fast forward 3, 4, 5 years and it's like, look at how Back on Fig and Community are just as big or bigger than No Jumper. It's like, I'm not gonna be mad about that. I'm proud of them. Like, and I'm proud of the fact that they were able to do that coming up from No Jumper. It's just that in the future, if I take people on and make them hosts on this channel, I've realized that the part where they create their own platform doing interviews or streams or whatever should probably be something that they then start building after they leave. And I've also just realized I have conversations with people from Barstool, and I realize like, oh shit, they are under a very short leash.
Yeah,
in terms
they're
of
under
like,
that. Yeah, but you hear about like some of the like intellectual property like contracts in the podcast world and all that shit. Like for you though, like anybody who's coming on board now, right? If they want to do their own stream, it has to be under the umbrella of No Jumper.
I mean, I wouldn't say exclusively because like, okay, I do the Sledge Lords things with Danny Mullen.
Right.
He has his own weekly vlog that he does, and he has his own podcast that he does.
Right.
But it's also like he doesn't talk about anything on the podcast that
It's
has
also
anything
not
to
like
do
a-
with No Jumper.
Right.
You know, so it's like he's got his own crew. Like he has his own little mini No Jumper with a bunch of weird white people, right?
Right.
Like it's very it's like its own separate universe.
So we're like the community and Back on Fig, a lot of the content is kind of spiraling off of what happens in this building.
I mean,
be fair.
yesterday's Back on Fig title yesterday was Lush got fired live on stream.
Right.
So it's not like anyone's trying to hide the fact that this has basically become like No Jumper meta commentary. And it's not like it's always that, because I'm sure that if they had something else to talk about that was just as interesting, that they would have taken that and made that the title.
So let me ask you this, because a guy like Milk74 or random YouTube channel A, B, or C is going to do the same shit, right?
Word.
They're going to benefit off of the drama here, right? Wouldn't you rather AD and T-Rail benefit off of it? At the very least, they're kind of giving like more of a biased in your favor perspective. I mean, maybe sometimes not, right?
Sometimes it seems biased to my
Because
favor.
like at the end of the day, isn't there gonna already be people reacting and getting tons of fucking views off of the drama that happens on camera here?
And I'm totally aware of that, because obviously, like, if AD and T-Rail had nothing to do with No Jumper tomorrow, it's not like that's going to stop them from having a conversation about the next crazy thing that Flacco does on stream or whatever.
Facts. Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, I've already accepted that. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it does feel like there are narratives that get pushed on some of the other platforms that when I look at it, I'm like, okay, so I introduced you guys to the streaming thing. I am paying you. And then still, I basically end up just as fodder for conversation here on stream.
The thing is, though, the people who are in the building, they always going to catch more eyes because you want it from damn near the
For
horse's
sure, because you're
mouth.
getting it from the source.
Yeah,
100%.
Milk only knows what's on the cameras.
Right.
That's how that's going to go.
No, I get it. Yeah. Let me ask you this, bro. Is it hard to like, because I feel like you have genuine friendship with a guy like AD, right? You have a genuine friendship with a guy like, well, I mean, a long friendship with House Phone. Do you feel like your friendships, like real, because it's hard to get real friends, right? In this, especially in LA, you know what I'm saying? Especially in the entertainment industry.
Ain't that the truth?
Are you finding yourself like with less and less friends at the expense of the content?
Massively, because like the restructuring of my life over the course of the past couple of years has basically been like think about me when I started No Jumper. I was hanging out at that store all the fucking day, all day long, and then I would go to shows, I would go to people's parties, I would get fucked up with people. I'd be like, oh, so-and-so wants me to go over their house and smoke weed.
Yeah,
Boom.
you were outside.
Yeah, hop in the Uber. Let's go to this guy's house. This rapper, Famous Dex wants me to pull up to the studio. Okay, boom, we're going to the studio. We're hanging out. Like, I was outside. I was doing shit. As time goes by, it's like I have a kid. I start to slowly accept the fact that I am no longer in my early 30s. I'm now 39. And what are my like real goals of like once you have a kid, especially, you know this,
Yeah.
you start having to look at your time and just audit the fuck out of it.
For sure.
And say, all right, like if I have an hour, if 7 to 8 p.m. is free on a Wednesday, what am I going to do with that time? Now, for you and me, it might be getting ready for an interview we have to do the next day, or it might be, even if you give yourself an hour to be like, I'm going to watch some fucking Joe Budden podcast clips that I've been dying to watch or whatever. Like that time is crucial and scarce. And I just look at the world so fucking different at this point in terms of like how I'm using my time. So whereas I used to have all these sort of like casual off-camera friendships, like even somebody like AD, it's like I interviewed AD and then, you know, I saw him at Rolling Loud after that, and I seen him like a few different times, seen him at video, I guess I met him at a video shoot. And, you know, we had like a cool friendship, but then like over time that becomes a podcast relationship. Because for me, I don't really have a lot of time for anything in between. It's like I have the content that I'm making and the business, and then I have my family life and shit that I'm dealing with in that regard. So I do feel like that. Yeah, for sure. That's like my biggest worry in all this. And that's why I really resent this narrative that I was like talking shit behind AD's back. In reality, I was having a conversation with one of the other co-hosts about a decision that I was considering making. And if I didn't give a fuck about AD, the conversation would have been incredibly easy and simple. I would have said, bro, I don't think you're good for this podcast anymore. You gotta go.
Right.
I didn't do that. I fucking thought about it for a long fucking period of time. And then when I finally talked to him about it, I expressed it to him in the way that I thought would be best to not hurt his feelings and fuck up our relationship. So I am kind of resentful about the idea that at a certain point gets presented as Adam was talking shit behind his back, because it's just not true. The reality is, and I said this on Community last night, is that when AD and Pun decided that they were going to let AD's cousin go, they talked about it, right?
Right.
And then they let him go. They had the conversation with him after they talked about it. So me talking to Lush about it, granted, maybe like I had bad judgment in thinking that I could trust Lush, but it did seem pretty reasonable. Like that honestly reminds me of some shit that I had to deal with in high school, where you remember in high school you like tell somebody something and then like immediately, boom, they just tell everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you get older, you start to feel like you can trust people.
To like 3 different people to see who's going to tell if that detail comes back to you.
Exactly. Oh, I mean, the Guilty thing. Like, bro, the fact that Guilty was able to sort of slither his way into this community, and I can't even really blame him for telling AD what.
All right, Guilty.
Whatever he is. He told me he's not a groiper. Because I asked him.
What is that?
Yeah.
A groiper is like a hardcore Nick Fuentes fan. And
Okay.
I
That
tried
sounds
to.
That's a thing?
It sounds like a misdemeanor.
He's got a beehive?
Yes.
Right?
He's got barbs?
You would not fucking believe it.
What?
When I did that debate with Nick Fuentes originally, I look at it, they make it live. I refresh it. It has like 700 comments in like 10 minutes. I had never seen a video get comments that fast. And then I start reading the comments, and it's not like they're bots, but they're clearly like from the Nick Fuentes Discord, commenting on this. Like
this whole fucking internet underworld.
it's crazy. But I asked that Guilty dude at one point. I was like, bro, because like you got all these Nick Fuentes photos on your fucking Instagram. Like what? Like, are you a fucking Nazi or what? And he's just like, no, I'm not a groiper. And I remember thinking like, okay, but I asked you if you're a Nazi, and I'm not 100%. Like I tried to look up the origins of the word groiper.
Yeah.
I don't fucking get it. It's some weird ass deep seated internet shit.
I think Bill Cosby was graping bitches.
He was groping bitches with the Quaaludes. He was Quaaluding these hoes.
See, I like that.
Yeah.
That
Shout out
was
to
good.
Bill Cosby.
Slightly delayed pound.
I go to a Bill
It's all
Cosby
good. I
show.
wasn't looking.
Would you go to a Bill Cosby show?
Hell yeah. I want to know. You got to, come on, you got to explain this shit.
I would love to like
He's
see
still-
the energy.
He's still doing PG comedy on stage after we know he's been raping chicks.
I'm heckling.
But you remember he was supposed to do a comedy tour and then it got
He
canceled?
got canceled, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
I've been showing my girl all these old Seinfeld episodes, and like I said to her the other day, I'm like, so now do you see why it was such a big deal when this guy said the N-word on stage? I'm like, look at how funny he is on the show. Look how great he is.
Yeah,
and
'cause
then
Kramer was that
for
guy.
him to go on that fucking rant, I'm like, now you understand why it was such a big deal and why we have not really seen him.
Well, he
since.
did come back on there was a season of Curb where they did the fake Seinfeld reunion, and that was
Right.
after that.
But like Larry David being the only one to really like, I don't know, maybe he's done some other acting
No, I don't
work
think he's
after
done
that.
anything else. You're
Nah,
right.
he's burnt.
He's burnt out for
He
sure.
said it like 7 times.
Dude, him and
Wow.
Armie Hammer need to start a podcast together.
Yeah. And the guilty guy, the groiper.
Oh, he could be on there too. Maybe
Yeah.
he could run their Discord.
Jesus. So do you have, because this is my thing, bro. Like, do you feel like your like what would be considered genuine friendships have turned into just work relationships? Because, obviously you and House Phone leaving, I would assume he's one of your oldest friends in LA.
True.
Is it like lonely being Adam 22 kind of? I mean, obviously you got your girl, you got your daughter, you got, but like in terms of like, do you have a lot of friends outside of what happens on camera here?
I do, but they're not like hip hop people.
Right.
Like I have all these super close friendships with all these BMX dudes that I can talk to all the time, but they don't know anything about what the fuck happens here. Like I have a lot of friends who I talk to that just all this shit is kind of a mystery. And like once in a while they'll be like, look at this clip on TikTok, or like, whoa, there was a fight at the, like they just like once in a while tap in and just express this feeling of like massive confusion about it. But yeah, dude, it's fucking lonely for sure.
Because you got a guy like AD, right, who like I'm sure looks at you as like a genuine friend, somebody who. So when I saw that clip yesterday, him like kind of freaking out, and then you guys deciding let's talk about this off camera. To me, that's like, you know, whether or not the severity of what you said to Lush was like a big deal, a small deal, something that you would have said to his face or have said to his face. And did say to his face,
I told AD that a million fucking times, but I didn't use the number 4.
Right,
and that's how I knew it was
that's
a
how
leak.
You knew it was Lush.
Because I had said the thing about 4 jokes to Lush, which in my head, I was not thinking like, oh, I'm going to say this like this so that like I'll know if it gets repeated. Right. But it ended up working out that way exactly because Lush couldn't help himself but to say the exact thing that I said.
I was going to
Isn't that crazy?
Do you like use this situation or the last year or so as kind of like a precursor on how you might handle business relationships that turn into real friendships and the lines kind of get blurry moving forward? Because like obviously I see some of the shit that happens here and I'm like, damn, like, you know, I was just telling him, I was like, I feel like the Lush guy, I never was like kind of a fan of him. I always thought he was kind of a cornball, but like I felt like I watched his heart get broken.
Yeah.
Like his whole livelihood just get ripped from his soul, like live on the internet. I was like, he might cry in the car. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny that you said that word because I heard him on one of the platforms yesterday, and they asked him how he felt about, you know, No Jumper, and he's like, I still love it. That's literally my livelihood. And that was when I kind of sort of felt for him because I could see how important this place was to him, but you gotta. Like if everything happened the way is looking like it happened, then you got to treat the place more important.
I agree. At the same time, do you feel like? Because my thing is like, damn, even if that happened, like, it's kind of a mean thing to do on camera.
Oh yeah,
Or do you just not give a fuck at this point?
I told Adam that as a millionaire, he's allowed like a quarterly crash out. So every 3 months, go on and crash the fuck out.
Bro, I just was like, I saw this dude's face and just, you know, the way he kept lying and like fit. I was like, oh, this guy's just melting.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I'm not 100% happy about the fact that I had that conversation on camera, but in that moment, I was just so fucking pissed that I was like,
let's get him out of here.
I cannot wait 20 minutes to have this conversation.
Right.
Like I have to. It would be like if you found out your girl was cheating on you.
For sure.
And
Fair enough.
And you're trying to finish this podcast right now.
Nah.
But she's in the other room, and you know for a fact, you get a text on your phone, somebody tell you, like, I know for a fact. Well, it would be very difficult for you to finish this podcast, right?
I couldn't.
Yeah.
So that's a great comparison, because I feel you. You're like, yo, fuck this.
Yeah.
Snatching this bitch out of here. You know what I'm saying? For
the
sure.
only thing you did wrong was you kept that fucking jacket on because the jokes
You
about
love
that fucking,
jacket.
like, I am a real American.
I love that song. But you know what's funny about that?
That's a great. I feel like you've worn that jacket a lot at this point.
Okay, what about the fact that the T-shirt that I happen to be wearing is a fucking Joy Division shirt, and I'm pretty sure Joy Division, like that name came from some World War II shit. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
so if you're looking for like racist motives like in the clothing that I happen to be wearing that day, by the way, that was a Supreme jacket. So it's like anybody who's like,
Also,
oh, look at him wearing his fucking Confederate jacket or whatever. It's a Supreme jacket. I bought it on Melrose for like $500.
That was a regular ass American flag. I'm not gonna let them put the Confederacy on you.
I was gonna say it's kind of hard these days because my wife's also one of these people who, if she sees somebody with like an American flag on their truck, she's like, look at this fucking racist motherfucker, and I'm like, or they're patriotic.
Oh my God, we just had this conversation on Sledge Lords, right?
Yeah, like the fucking flag doesn't mean you're racist. Could also, like, what happened when Joel Santana was wearing that shit on his fucking head in 2003?
What happened to Never Forget, man? The towers got knocked down, man.
The towers were knocked down. We all had flags.
I'm still mad.
Trump kind of fucked the American flag up though, low key. For like a little bit. He tarnished the brand for a little, you know what I mean?
Well, Trump coming around is the first time that I heard about people like actually getting kind of like called racist just for having the flag on.
It's like, what if I'm just a proud American?
We were talking about the Confederate flag in the group chat the other day, and like, why were we talking? I forget why we were talking about it, but I ended up looking up. I Googled Outcast Confederate flag because I remember that there was an award show,
Andre 3000,
where
right?
Andre 3000 wore like a Confederate flag shirt. Because I was just trying to say like, the Confederate flag has changed a lot over the last like 10, 20 years in the sense that I think you used to be able to, like, if you were from down south and you rocked that shit, people weren't tripping that hard. They didn't necessarily think it was 100% like a statement of
I
their
don't know, man.
commitment to racism.
I lived in Tampa, Florida, and there'd be like giant trucks with the fucking Confederate flag just flying in the back. And you'd be like, oh,
But Andre
the
3000,
South will rise again, bumper stickers.
Ludacris rocked it. He rocked like a full Confederate flag jumpsuit at some point.
Bad judgment.
Yo,
for
contrary
sure.
to popular belief, the Confederate flag fucking slaps way harder than the regular flag. That design is fucking incredible.
Because it's like an X.
Yeah, I'm so tight. We just can't use it freely because that shit slaps, dude. But you just can't.
But that's what you have to ask yourself. Like,
I'm going to go ahead and just...
I can say that because I'm black.
Check out the MyBookie read
that shit
that's coming
can't
up.
slap to you.
is there a part of
no
you
comments.
that wants to rock like swastika merchandise just because it's a pretty cool looking symbol?
slaps.
I mean, because it slaps. Because it's like it's like the most basic symbol you could think of, and
swastika
take it
don't
out of its
slap.
context.
The swastika don't fucking slap.
But the Confederate flag does.
It's a dope design,
But
bro.
it makes me wonder: do you think it's cool because of the fact that it's so edgy and nobody can fucking rock it without inviting a massive tidal wave of hatred?
No, it's not. I'm just talking about literally
Just as a graphic designer.
The graphic, like if you didn't know what it meant and you put them shit side by side, the regular American flag, that shit is like just regular, but the fucking design of the Confederate flag, it slaps. However, I don't fuck with it because I actually know what it means.
Right.
But yeah, it's just like I wish like I could. I'm gonna hit up some of my graphic design homies and ask
do
if I'm
that.
tripping.
Oh, no, I thought you were going to have them like
No,
make you some shit.
I mean, if you're from down south, I feel like you could get away with it in a different way because they'll have a Confederate flag shirt that says "Heritage, not hate."
Yeah.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
That's pandering though. I don't like pandering. Like if you going like balls to the wall, if you gonna rock that shit, rock it.
Speaking of rocking out, make your March Madness a moneymaker with MyBookie. Getting started is easy. Visit MyBookie online and use the promo code NOJUMPER, one word, to receive a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. Grab your extra funds now and for a limited time, claim a free entry into the $150,000 MyBookie Madness bracket contest for a chance at big money. If you're the type of guy who likes to fill out multiple brackets to get an advantage, you can do that too. The price of entry is less than an Uber, all for a shot at a life-changing amount of money. With so many brands to choose from, you need a platform that makes it simple to bet and win like MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie and use promo code NOJUMPER. So yeah, dude, like somebody sent me the Luscious planning going on live at 1. So by the time that they see this, there will be some additional layer of Lush on Instagram Live, probably mostly repeating the stuff that he said last night on Community, but there's something for us to look forward to.
For you to look forward to.
As if today wasn't going to be, because you guys are just going to pop in the Reddit and watch a clip or two, right?
Dude,
Yeah.
I this whole fucking underbelly of shit, I'm just not hip to. I had Discord for like a year because during the pandemic, I got really bored and I started like doing retail arbitrage where I would like buy shit for the low and then flip it like Nintendo Switches and shit.
Really? So you'd buy it for like what and then sell it for what?
So like I'd get a Nintendo Switch for like retail, like $299 and then sell it for like $450.
I'm not buying no Nintendo Switch from a nigga named Bootleg Kev.
Well, no, on OfferUp, that's not my name, bruh. But so I was a part of this Discord group called FlipSeek, and they would tell you like they'd give you like shit to flip. You had to pay to be a part of it.
Really?
But yeah, all pandemic, I was just bored, fucking just selling shit on OfferUp.
And it was actually doing good.
Oh, I made so much money selling weights, selling fucking jacuzzis.
Why can you buy it for
pools.
Why can you buy it for $300 and sell it for $450? The people paying $450, they just aren't clued in enough.
Like early pandemic, Switches were like the supply chain was fucked. So if you can get Nintendo Switches for whatever
I wish you weren't
reason-
saying Nintendo Switches and you were just saying Switches so that we could pretend this was a little Dirk verse.
They're
Yo, the clip
booming.
would have been crazy. Yo, clip this. Bootleg Kev on selling Switches during the pandemic.
And we got to get AI fucking versions of him just loading up guns and shit on O'Block.
Yeah, like that. I mean, dude, like inflatable pools were booming, bruh. So you'd like be able to get like these inflatable pools and so on for like 7 times as what you fucking. I mean, it kind of sucked because people couldn't work out at
You
the
have
gym.
to have it, or it's like
No, I'd buy this shit.
but
Like,
you hold it for a period of time, or
No.
does it just get shipped?
no,
to
right
them?
away. So
Oh,
like
yeah,
I'd get an alert. There's like these bots, like so when the those adjustable dumbbells.
Yeah.
So during the pandemic, you couldn't go to the gym in LA.
Yeah. Oh. And I remember trying to buy weights at that time and
remember how
having my girl be like,
sold out?
It's $400 for a fucking 45-pound weight or some shit.
And
I'm
so
like,
I was the
"What?"
guy selling it for $400.
Hey, I can't hate on it. I respect it.
Yeah, that was just fucking beating up with strangers all pandemic off of OfferUp, man.
And were they ever like, yo, you're that guy?
Yes, for
really?
sure. A couple of times. I almost got robbed at the 7-Eleven on Glen Oaks in Burbank.
For what?
So I was supposed to meet up with the guy to buy a PS5.
Uh-huh.
So I went to, and I was texting the guy on OfferUp, and he had like a verified profile. And I told the dude like, hey, because if I buy shit, I usually try not to do cash because I'm not trying to get robbed, right? So I told the guy, I said, hey, dude, I don't have the cash. It's like 9:00 at night. Can I Zelle it to you? He was like, yeah. I just asked my mom. You can use her Zelle, whatever. So I pull up at the side of the 7-Eleven on Glen Oaks in Burbank, and there's two dudes sitting there with a PlayStation box, right? But they look like hella fucking. They just look sketched out, but they look like they're like 17. So I'm like, whatever. Maybe they're nervous that I'm gonna rob them.
rob you, from what I
Right.
hear. Yeah.
Damn it, Kelpie.
So mind you, I have zero cash on me, like no cash, nothing. So I get out the car, and one dude's holding the PS5, and the other dude just pulls a gun out and points it right at me, and he says, "Don't run."
So what the
And
fuck
I
he
said,
wants you to do? Zell him?
shit.
He
So
wants
I
you to-
left my car there running with the door open, booked it, hit the corner next into the 7-Eleven,
You just ran.
and I ran. As soon as I saw the gun, I booked it, bro. I said, these motherfuckers are gonna shoot me in the back,
Yeah.
or they're pussy because they're kids.
You're going to shoot a moving target that's running away
Right.
from you? I mean.
And I just left my car there. Then they shot the opposite direction.
Wait, they ran the opposite
Yeah,
direction.
because they were like, oh shit, this ain't gonna go how we thought it was gonna go.
Yeah.
Also, these motherfuckers, I'm communicating them. I don't have cash on me, so I didn't know what they were gonna do. Like, put a gun
what
in my
I'm
head and
saying.
tell me to send money to an account or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it was crazy. But
They're just
you know,
assuming that you might have more stuff that they could take from you, or like the
I don't
car.
know. I left the car running right there with the door open. They
And they
couldn't
didn't grab
the
it.
car. Yeah.
That's an insane story. I'm not gonna lie though. Like the other night, I was watching. There's this guy like Bingaza or some shit. He's like a YouTuber who makes all these finance videos, and I was watching a video where he actually talked about how he had taken on this. He took on this whole career of like making YouTube videos and stuff about drop shipping, because he does like drop shipping where he also will like promote the shit via TikTok. I guess that's the big move or whatever. And he made this video basically explaining how he's kind of leaving his YouTube career behind because he can make so much money off of doing the thing
The thing he's teaching people.
that he already has been teaching people, right? And he has like a course and stuff. And I almost spent $300 to buy this fucking drop shipping course because he was doing such a good job of like convincing me that this would be interesting.
Good
And
money, man.
And I'm thinking like I have an additional advantage because we already have big ass social media on TikTok and everything like that. So if we advertise like branded, because all we would have to do is think of something that's like a product that isn't like No Jumper branded, but is something that would appeal to the No Jumper audience. And
For
then
sure.
just pump
And then
that shit
pump it
out
like
via
they're- like
TikTok
they're a
ads or
sponsor.
whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
It could be like a mag charger, just something like that. Whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
something that you're like, damn, we could just drop. There's zero overhead.
Because when I was watching that video of him saying that, I couldn't help but like kind of see the parallel of what my shit is like. Where sometimes I look at my life and I'm like, you know, I put so much of myself into doing these interviews. Like even just last week, I did 16 pieces of content, 15 pieces of content in 4 days. You know, and
exhausting.
one of them was I went on somebody else's podcast. One was Sledge Lords, or two were Sledge Lords. One was the No Jumper Show, and then besides that was
Bunch of
11 or
panels.
12 interviews. Yeah, and so you know, I like doing it. I like this channel. I like what I've created, but also it's like sometimes I think about the other things that I have on my plate that I could be putting my time into. You know, like I made many hundreds of thousands of dollars last year from signing OnlyFans girls. You know.
Yeah, I think you were telling me that's a nice.
You know, it's like and sometimes I'm forced to kind of think about that. Like if my goal at this point in my life is to make as much money as I can and take care of my family as best as I can, grinding out 11 podcasts in a row might not necessarily always be the best idea, right?
Tons of time, tons of bandwidth.
For stuff that like sometimes you put a YouTube video out and you make like $300 and you're like, okay.
So for you, do you ever see yourself like not necessarily retiring, but fully stepping away and letting No Jumper just kind of run itself with other personalities, other faces?
I feel like that only maybe feels tempting to me because of what No Jumper has turned into.
Because you can remove yourself from the stress.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the taxing part of this, your personal life being overly exposed has got to be. That's the one thing. Like, I got a wife, I got kids, and I'm like, man, I can't even imagine motherfuckers talking about my shit on Reddit.
Exactly. And it's like, But
you also have a podcast with your girl where you guys fuck chicks together, so
Exactly. And that, all like that's the problem, is that the more stuff I do that starts making money, the more I look at this and I'm kind of like, I started doing this because I liked it,
Right.
/ because I needed to fucking figure something out in my life in general. As soon as it starts to feel like, oh, I'm not enjoying this, it's like, well, why the fuck am I doing it? Because I know this one poker dude, he won like $10 million and he'd been chilling ever since.
He's like, I got what I needed out of it.
Yeah.
I was only doing poker as a means to make money.
Yeah. And like when I've talked to him and I'm just like, oh, so like you don't have that thing anymore. Like me as an American, I think, oh, if I won $10 million playing poker, now I got to figure out how I'm going to make another $10 million, how I'm going to fucking
flip it to 100.
Exactly. How I'm going to create a whole business around this, whatever. Like that just kind of makes sense to me. And when I look at that, and he's just kind of like, no, like I've done really well for myself. I'm probably not going to spend this much money. Like for the rest of my life, I probably won't spend $10 million. I don't know if I would feel that way because the cost of living is so high in LA that $10 million does not sound like you'd be able to just chill for the rest of your life.
It's not the fuck you money that it would be in Montana.
Yeah, exactly.
Dame Dash is punching air right now. Like
yeah, you could tell some people to fuck you with $10 million.
For sure.
But you're not going to be able to be like, I have a beach house in Malibu and also fuck you.
And also fuck you, yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to work out. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like my overall goal is to just like get No Jumper to the point where it's fun, it's good for the hosts, and everybody's enjoying themselves, but that there isn't this like weird like level of just beef going on all the time, or where it's just like unpleasant. And like even when I look at myself, when I look at the way I've felt for the last 24 hours, it's like fundamentally different than how I felt when that whole house phone shit was unfolding, because I felt horrible about that house phone thing. This shit is, I feel like I'm so jaded to having like just random shit about my personal life become conversation for everybody to have online.
You're like desensitized to it.
Exactly. It's like hard for me to even get emotional about it or whatever. Right. Like I felt bad about the fact that AD found out some shit that I said from somebody else, even though ultimately the shit that I said was really like whatever. But it just didn't really like, it just didn't hit the same. It was like, maybe this is just shit that needs to happen in order for this shit to just, it's just not, I don't know. It's like, and that's what's weird about it too, is everybody looks at it like, oh, No Jumper is this big success because of all the hosts.
And because of the drama.
Yeah, and it's like, bro, I don't feel that way. I would way rather get less views on the channel and just have it be consistent and fun and enjoyable for everybody.
And you be at a little more peace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, like us having a big month on No Jumper, YouTube-wise or whatever, it's like not that different from us having a bad month.
Right.
Like for me personally, like we're good. Like we're making enough money that we don't have to chase after every last fucking beef-based view,
When did you guys start editing the curse words out?
See, that's another thing, is that we used to go live. I'll just say numbers. We used to go live, and like a 2-hour live podcast, we would make like maybe $2,500, $3,000 from the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. From YouTube ads. And that would be like, okay, dope. We can pay the hosts, and then we still have a little bit of money left over afterwards or whatever. Over the course of like the past year is literally gone to like 10% of that. So if we're live and we do a 2-hour video, it's going to make like $300.
Wow. So you're kind of like hoping that the super chats hit and the, all that kind of shit.
But we never been that kind of channel where we're even like engaging with the chat like that. When we were doing it live, it was like we weren't looking at the chat, because my thing has always been like, if we're going to have a really good conversation, it will get fucked up by the chat. Well, now, I'm not against popping the chat up once in a while.
Right, I think when you and I were live, or I forget what show you had me on, but I think you guys looked at the chat at the end.
Yeah, we were doing that for a while, but even that we kind of stopped doing a while back. So it's like we've never really like stressed making as much money as possible off of the live stream podcast shit. We just kind of were doing it to do it, But then, yeah, like the fact that the money got split down to like 1/10 of what it was.
Strictly because of curse words. Profanity.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you go live and you never swear, you'd probably be all right, and you would probably be making like a better dollar amount. But I mean, that right there is like, it's just, it's not the difference between like a couple $100s and a couple $1,000 for us is like not that huge, but it does stand out as like, oh, so I'm like doing this for free / when I pay the host, I'm paying the host out of pocket.
It's costing you money.
Yeah, definitely. which is like that in and of itself is kind of like insulting to the team, because to them it's like the idea that we're not making any money, but now they have their own YouTube channels and they all see exactly what it's like and how fucking hard it is, you know?
Right.
So that's why we started pre-recording and editing curse words out and stuff, because at a certain point, like, you know, I talk to Vlad all the time and it's like, Vlad doesn't give a fuck about live. He only been live one time. And like, you know, like he makes content and then puts it out in the way that is going to make him the most money. He has the membership shit, so you can watch the full Boosie interview before it comes out. Right. He puts it out clip by clip, and then he puts out the full thing and puts it on Facebook, whatever. Like we just put the shit out. And like I don't feel like I have any real like obligation to doing it live, aside from the fact that the fans like it.
Right.
But it's like, at the end of the day, if it's the difference between us running a business that's making a decent amount of money off of the podcast doing versus losing, it just becomes like an incredibly easy decision. And yeah, I mean, like what all this kind of also has made me want to just be more transparent about. Did you see the part where Van Lathan talked to AD yesterday?
Yeah, that was my favorite part.
I mean, he bodied it.
Yeah, that shit was fire, like Oscar worthy.
I
It wasn't acting, but it was dope.
I didn't see it.
He basically like gave AD a talking to that was like, I'll try to summarize it. I'm sure you guys can find it on YouTube. But he said, us, black people, we tend to, or he was basically saying that they tend to take stuff very personal and think that business stuff might also be synonymous with friendship shit. And Van used the example of at TMZ where he, you know, would have a family member who's sick, or there'd be somebody else who worked there and their family members are sick, and he's you know, donating, or they're all joining together to make somebody feel better because their relatives are going through something rough, etc. And then Van got fired from TMZ, and everybody just stayed there. You know, they probably like wished him well or kept talking to him a bit or whatever.
But they were like, if he's fired, I'm out.
Exactly.
Right.
And they might have, you know, the truth is that maybe that would have moved the needle for Van. Like maybe if fucking 15 people who worked at TMZ said like, no, we're leaving, if fucking Van gets fired, then maybe Van would have been able to keep that job. I think he was also like, he said he was super burnt out on the job by that point. He didn't like what it had become and everything. But you know, like AD's somebody who I don't think he's ever had like a job per se. You know, he's like always been kind of doing his thing independently. He probably had like jobs back in the day, but like he never, you know, to him it's like No Jumper is like a friendship. And then everything else after that is just like, you know, how we figure out how much money we're paying and stuff. That's what sucks, is that if you're friends with somebody and then you start paying them, it's like the money kind of becomes a representation of how much you care about them.
To that person.
Exactly. They kind of end up, because it's hard to not take it that way when, you know, you're both doing business together and you're friends. It's like, to a lot of people, like when those two things are going on side by side, it's like almost impossible to like unweave them from each other.
Yeah.
So I think that like whatever conversation me and AD have going forward about what's going to happen with the Wednesday show, or him even being involved with the brand at all, it's like, after listening to that Van Lathan conversation, and especially juxtaposing what Van was saying versus what Pun was saying, where Pun was doing like the ultimate version of like being on stream trying to hype shit up for views, you know? Because he's like blatantly like refusing to actually engage with me on the stuff that we were talking about. Like when I'm saying like, how is me talking to Lush about a decision that I had made about the podcast? How's that any different from you guys talking about the decision that you made with kicking Crazy off a Community? It's like, well, that's a pretty fucking good point, and I feel like that deserves like an honest answer.
Right.
And he wasn't even trying to be honest, you know? And that's kind of like, I said on the Tuesday show a little while back, like, this shit changes people. Like, pay very, very close attention to how streaming and making content will make you and the people around you behave fundamentally different, because now your incentives have changed, where a very like, you know, cool, chill conversation doesn't really do anything for you on social media or on YouTube, but like a crazy fucking conversation where you end up exaggerating what everybody's done and completely like just double down on things that don't even make sense. Like that shit is just so much more
because it's
appealing.
Because the bag is bigger. Yeah.
Right. And so then like you have somebody like in that conversation with AD, I felt like I got Pun right here just hyping shit up and trying to make it as bad as possible, trying to sow division in between this conversation. Because trust me, the conversation that me and AD had a few hours earlier before that was way more civil than what it looked like on camera, you know? And that shit, like the shit really does change people. So now it's like more than ever, it's like I need to have the conversation when I make somebody part of No Jumper about like what this is. Like we're gonna work together, make content, and if you do good, I want to. I feel like I'm talking about Court right now.
Right. He just started.
Yeah,
you
I
might as well
started
give him the
listening
talk.
kinda hard.
Give him the talk right now.
If you do good, we're going to embrace the fuck out of you, and we're going to try to work to do more stuff together. Like if you end up becoming somebody that the audience really fucks with. And like sometimes it's kind of like you don't have that conversation beforehand necessarily, but the opposite end of that is no matter how much I like you, if the fans don't fuck with you, then that kind of like forces me to make this decision about how hard we fuck with the person, you know? And like my goal in doing all this is definitely to like help people and make their shit bigger and better and make them famous and stuff. And I've fucking done it over and over where there's like all kinds of people now who basically like are well known from No Jumper. And I feel really good about that. But also it's like, you know, while somebody is working for No Jumper or while they're as part of the team, you know, then we kind of need to be able to have conversations about how we're going to move so that we all stay on the same page if we want to make the next version of No Jumper different than the version that we've been basically dealing with for the last couple of years, you know?
Hypothetically speaking, let's say AD and T-Rail are no longer a part of No Jumper moving forward in a hypothetical world.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that negatively affects the business, or is that just a short-term thing? Because I feel like that now, like back on Fig and Community have like,
yeah, they have their own momentum.
They have some crazy fans too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely.
So like for you, like in a world in which that may or may not happen, like how, like does it really throw that big of a wrench into the dynamic of, I guess, the business of No Jumper?
It doesn't fuck up the business of No Jumper, but it definitely fucks up like the sense of what we've been building, I think, you know, like that's why I'm definitely trying to keep the Wednesday thing going. But at the same time, like when I was ready to have this conversation with AD, it's like I knew that even if it meant that No Jumper was going to implode as a result of me having that conversation, I just can't be in a relationship with somebody podcast wise where I'm scared to tell them how I feel, you know? Or like not like scared, like, oh, you're gonna beat me up or whatever, but like scared in the sense of like, I don't want to hurt your feelings and I don't want to cause drama on camera or whatever. It's like, really, I probably should have told AD that shit like a long time ago, like before I even, like as soon as I started thinking about it, you know?
Right.
Like, I'm glad I gave myself some time to think about it before I hit him up about it. But, you know, it's like, I'm trying to make, like ultimately what does No Jumper exist for? Like I want to build a great brand, but I also want to enjoy my life while I'm here. You know, I want to have a good time on camera and everything like that. And it's like, I feel like at certain points I've kind of let the expectations of the fans allow me to turn No Jumper into something that I'm not as happy about, you know? And it's like, I just kind of realized over the past week or whatever that I don't give a fuck. Like, I want to make this like what I want it to be. And if there's like hard conversations that I have to have that may result in people not fucking with me or whatever, that's fine. Like we could do that. We could have those conversations and stuff. So it's like I'd be bummed if T-Rail and AD decided that they had to go that way. I don't know why we're leaving Duno out of this. Duno's obviously doing
Shout out
great.
to Duno.
as
Duno,
well.
shout out to Brown Bag Mornings.
Yeah,
well, even though they're on the station I go up against, I'm proud of those guys. Shout out to the Brown Bag podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely just like, I don't know. I just felt like even me having that conversation with AD was like think about that fact that I thought about that for so long before I had the conversation because I knew how much potential there was for it to be damaging to the relationships of people here. Mm-hmm. And then a motherfucker leaked and think about with Lush too. Like that's why I kind of resent being acting like I'm talking behind AD's back. It's like it would have been fair for me to have like a million conversations with Lush about this. It would have been fair for me to have way more in-depth conversations with somebody like Lush if he was planning on staying on the show, right? It's just like the only things that I was even caught for saying were things that I had already basically said to his face.
Right.
And so I just don't like, I mean, at a certain point, it's just like, bro, I would rather do a dope podcast where I could just have conversations every week and not have it be some drama thing. So it's like, that's kind of part of it too, is it's like, if we keep doing the Wednesday show, do I really want to keep doing that if it's going to also mean that there's just this like kind of like constant feeding frenzy from other channels that of people who are on the channel who are on our channel who then also have their own channels where they're kind of like to me, sometimes making shit worse. I'm not saying always making it worse, but like it definitely hypes shit up in a way that I'm not comfortable with sometimes.
How do you feel about the narrative that no jumper is failing or going down the drain? Because it's like a whispering narrative, but it's in there.
I mean, there's a lot of different ways that people will judge how you're doing as a business. And the thing about that is that, like I just explained, having, you know, a bunch of different live podcasts on the channel is costing me a lot of money. So that doesn't really like bother me that much, because in the reality is that like, why am I a fucking grown man, almost 40, and I'm kind of like judging myself too much on metrics that don't really matter, like the fact like how many live viewers we have or whatever. It's like, you know, and like even taking this show and putting it as a pre-recorded thing instead of like doing it live, it's like like do I really have so much of my ego wrapped up in the numbers that I'm willing to put that before like the business, the money and the happiness? Because the business and my own happiness / the people around me's happiness seems like a way better thing for me to be sort of judging it on. So, I mean, yeah, like obviously No Jumper to a certain extent has kind of fallen apart over the past couple of weeks, you know, like that's just reality, is that the house phone thing happened and then all this shit happened and we don't even know what the fuck is going to happen Wednesday or whatever. But I mean, that doesn't really bother me that much, just because like everything else with the business is doing so well. And the reality is that I could just take time off. Like I could take fucking time off and just do whatever. And like, you know, like I don't want to do that, but I mean, I'm chilling, you know?
I mean, if you're doing 500,000 views a day off a catalog, you know?
And that's like that. Like I have all kinds of other income streams at this point. So it's like realistically, I could take my sweet ass time in terms of figuring out what's going on with building shit on here. But I also feel like, you know, it's just not that big a deal. Like it's like even people saying it's falling apart. We're talking about like a couple different live streams a week that will get like 100, 150,000 views and then earn a very small amount of money in comparison to the amount of money we're investing in it. And nobody wants to hear that, but that's the reality of it, is that it's like we lose money on this shit. We do that because it makes the channel look good, and then that maybe attracts more
sponsors.
You know, I mean, has that ever happened? I don't fucking know. Do we get more sponsors as a result of the fact that we have all this crazy shit going on the channel? I doubt it.
It's like, yo, Almighty Suspect fucked up that little pimp kid.
Yeah.
Here's a bag. We'd like to sponsor that.
Yeah.
Maybe Scumbags would, you know?
Scumbags is probably pretty on board with that sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just shout out to Scumbags.
Yeah, I didn't even use condoms until I started getting them for free, so.
Oh, that is definitely a condom bag.
You thought that
I
was
see what
some
they
weed?
did.
Condom
There's
style.
weed inside. I see what they did there. Okay.
Geniuses of marketing. Can they see that? It might be so on the table that they can't see it, but shout out to Scumbags.
Yeah.
Ultra thin.
Is there weed in here or a leaf?
Weed, yeah.
Okay.
We might
Ultra
not
thin
have
weed.
We might not have filled we filled those.
Oh, you filled them. Okay.
So we might not have put as much as they would have put.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Let's say this weed feels like paper.
You want to know something funny? Did you watch that movie that I mentioned?
No, I did not.
Okay. Which one?
Good. Have you heard of Women Talking?
No.
So I told him and I told Lush, because we were talking about what we were going to do on the show or whatever, and me and my girl were in the middle of watching this movie called Women Talking, and it's a story about a bunch of women who live in this cult, and at a certain point they figure out like a super strict religious cult, and it's based on a book about a bunch of women in Bolivia, but like I think in the movie they don't specify where they're from or whatever. But there are a bunch of dudes in the town that they live in who have been going to the women's like dorms that they sleep in this religious community and using cow tranquilizer this movie like won a fucking Oscar and shit like over the weekend, but using cow tranquilizer to drug the women and then rape them.
Wow.
Jesus, that's dark.
Heavy.
Did they get pregnant?
Like they didn't know what was happening to them.
So they would just wake up in the morning like super fucked up.
Bruises all over the place. Or like, some of them did get pregnant. Some of them are getting STDs and shit.
They're like, well, they're probably thinking it's some like religious shit going on.
Because the fucking dudes, the same dudes who were doing it, were convincing them. Sorry for the spoilers. We're convincing them that it's like coming from God, or that it's just whatever. And so it's actually funny because the reason why we watched it was because me and Lena were having a conversation about like watching a documentary that really made us like feel good about life. Like we were like, we got to watch one of these documentaries that like really just focuses
So
on
that's
the
a
human
documentary?
spirit. No, this is a movie.
Okay.
But we somehow ended up watching that instead because my mom had told me about it that morning. And it was like probably one of the most depressing movies I've ever seen. So I decided to do a little test, and I was like, Lush, Court, you should watch this movie. Because I was like, if they'll actually watch that movie,
Like
then they're
homework.
yeah, but like you're fucking crazy if you watch that movie because that movie is depressing as
like you're
fuck.
just setting
It's like a
yourself-
movie you would never want to watch in your normal life.
If you didn't send me the trailer, I would have checked it out because I don't never check out trailers. But I was like, man,
Bro, that's why there's that movie that Brendan Fraser won an Oscar for.
What
Whale.
movie was that? Whale?
Yeah, so I guess it's about like this morbidly obese guy who's like wheelchair ridden.
And did he gain mad weight for the movie?
I don't know, but my son's telling me about it because my son's like a movie nerd. So he's like, I don't want to watch it, Dad, because it just looks like one of the depressing ass movies. So I guess he has like a few weeks or like a month to like the doctor pretty much says you're gonna die soon because you're such a fat fuck.
Right.
And he's trying to create a relationship with his daughter that he never had before he dies. Wow. And I'm like, sounds like the type of movie that would win an Oscar that I will not be fucking watching.
Really? Yeah.
Because I'm good.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking watching the Oscars is like so many of these movies seem like really boring, shitty movies that I would
But
not want to see.
Everything Everywhere All at Once,
You seen that?
fucking gas.
Because that's my mom was just telling me that I had to watch that, and then I seen it win all those Oscars.
It's one of the best movies I've seen in like 10 years.
Oh, I got to get on that.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm
There's
trying
so
to-
much shit wrapped up into it. It's like, it's so good. They deserve to sweep the whole
It pissed me
shit.
off though seeing the director wearing a fucking red suit with the word punk on the back at the Oscars.
oh man,
I was like, that is not punk. But then I found out that it's like a
Did
reference.
MGK direct it?
No, it's a reference to a shirt that a girl wore in the show or in the movie.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I can respect that.
Yeah.
But yeah, me watching I don't think I ever watched the Oscars before.
Did you watch them Sunday?
Yeah, because I happened to be at my girl's family's house, and in between going outside to smoke cigarettes with her uncle, I was watching that shit, and it was
Yeah.
pretty fucking lame. I'm gonna be honest, but
I actually didn't watch, but I just saw the clips of the speeches and shit. So
I know, and that's what I was thinking about afterwards. I was like, this is so the kind of thing that I would watch like 4 clips on Twitter from, and then
that's
have
it.
a whole conversation on the podcast about it. But then I was also like, bro, what am I turning into? Because I know a lot of people who like their whole thing, not like I know them, but like I see all these right-wing dudes on Twitter and stuff where their whole thing is that they like watch content that obviously isn't for them. And then they
Right.
talk about how much they fucking hate it. I was just scrolling through my feed and I seen like a little, it was like a Twitter live stream video or whatever. And it was like a bunch of fucking neckbeard dudes watching Genius videos.
Rap Genius videos.
Yeah, where they're like reciting the lyrics to the song.
oh
And
man,
they're just reacting like, oh,
I didn't click on it, but I assume they're talking about how dumb. Oh, listen how stupid this girl sounds, and listen to the lyrics are so
it's
bad.
kind of like
or
the
whatever.
internet now, though, right?
Yeah,
Because you got guys like Kyle Kalinske and David Pakman, and then they kind of do the liberal version of that, right?
yeah. Like I follow Matthew Iglesias on Twitter, and he fucking during CPAC, which is the conservative conference, Trump is on stage, and he's obviously giving this like unhinged fucking speech about whatever, and they like that Matthew Iglesias guy is watching it and snipping and posting clips all throughout it. So this is like the most liberal left-leaning guy, and he's out here just serving up content for all of his followers
In
who
his
want to
echo
like
chamber.
hate watch Trump.
Right.
Which to me, there was a period where I hate watched Trump. It was while he was the president of the United States or while he was running. You know, back then it seemed
I think
relevant.
everybody did.
Yeah, now it doesn't really seem like a good use of my time to like focus in on things that I know is
He's not
going to
even
kind of
the
piss me
president
off.
anymore. Yeah.
He's like fucking powerless, except for the fact that he might really be the president again,
yeah, that's a strong possibility.
or at least would be the Republican candidate.
Yeah, I think once you kind of understand that the energy you give shit to affects your like day-to-day life, even subconsciously, you don't even realize it, but it does, man.
Because I'm sitting there watching the Oscars, and the dude comes out and he's giving the award, and he's like signing. He's like doing all the sign language
Who was,
shit.
that was
Was the
I
guy
think
who
you
won
just
deaf?
banged like 4 different
just- yeah,
games
I'm
just now.
I have a whole nother set of problems now. But I'm like, so this guy comes out because I'm like, when you watch the Oscars, you get to see like real wokeness in action.
Oh yeah, it's disgusting. It's actually hilarious.
In a way that I wouldn't necessarily really even know existed otherwise. Because I'm watching this guy come out and give the fucking, sign language speech. And the woman that he's with is just straight up like, I am so proud of all the women in here who are, just really showing what women are capable of. And I'm just sitting there watching it like, are you fucking serious?
Who was
Like,
hosting?
Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh, Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, anybody slapping him.
Nah, he had mad jokes about the Will
The
Smith
whole
thing,
time.
yeah.
The whole time it was just like,
Were
okay,
any of the
let
jokes
this be
funny?
the last time anyone makes a fucking Will Smith Chris Rock joke.
Yeah, but he ended it pretty good because he's basically like calling out the audience for being fucking cowards and pussies, but
Yes.
like applauding. Will
I fuck
Smith
with
after
Kimmel.
that.
No, yeah, for sure.
He was funny. Although when you're watching him, like, are you able to watch him for long without like thinking about the fact that it's so obvious that a room full of writers wrote all these fucking jokes?
All of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's all the late night talk TV though.
It's too funny for one man to have come up with it.
Correct.
To write all these good jokes, and one man who has like a schedule like Jimmy Kimmel.
And if he was that great, he should be doing stand up in Vegas like once a month or something.
Yeah.
You know?
And yo, he had a bust down LOL moment that made me laugh so fucking hard that everybody around the house was like, what? Like they thought something must have been wrong because
Right.
I laughed so hard. Jimmy Kimmel goes, and I'm fully prepared for you guys not to get this joke, and that's okay because you might not know about this yet, but he goes, when I look out at all these beautiful faces out there, it just really makes me ask myself, is Ozempic right for me?
Oh,
What the fuck is that?
shit.
That's good, right?
That's one of them like TV medicines. Or some
Yeah,
shit
it's
like
it's like a diabetic medication that like you fucking you inject it a couple times a week, and it's literally making like a lot of people lose like 30% of their fucking body fat.
Oh wow.
Like it's super powerful. The jury is kind of out on a lot of the side effects,
So
but
people are taking it that don't have diabetes.
people are taking it like Kim Kardashian's on it.
Really?
Yes, that's how she's like rail thin now.
What the fuck?
And like the word on the street is that like everybody in Hollywood is on it. So when he said that, and he got such a laugh from the people too, because they all know that they're all fucking on it. And that was and that language of like, is Ozempic right for me? Because I haven't seen it, but I know they say that in the commercials.
Yeah.
I was just like, bro, this is.
Are the side
this is
effects crazy? Because I could use a.
Yeah, I mean, you might want to talk to your doctor about if it's right for you.
I
But
don't have insurance.
I know one girl who got on it, and it's meant for like real deal obese people, right?
Right.
I know a girl who got on it, was probably like 110 pounds, and she told me that she got really fucked up stomach issues from it.
That's a weird. Yeah, that's.
I've lost almost 40 pounds over the course of the last 6 months, and I'm just be real, I'm not taking any fucking weird ass diabetes medications.
You're just eating better, right?
I'm eating good, and I'm just working out.
Yeah.
So I feel like amazing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of starting to feel like Eneli Choppa because I took like 4 shits yesterday. Remember when he bragged on Twitter about he was taking 8 shits in a day?
Yeah.
I was worried about him.
I think he was capping for the Metamucil sponsorship, but it's
No,
all
he'll
good.
come into the like I've interviewed him probably 4 times in the last like 2 years.
Yeah, he
and
takes
He
shits.
comes in with the fucking all kinds of fucking
A
potions
jar of
and
poop?
oceans. And,
He comes in with like a little kid potty. He goes,
nah,
"Go
he
sit
has
in
like
the corner."
special water and shit. Like he'd be living that
Yeah,
shit
his
for real.
alkali water. Bro, I interviewed this girl, Coco Bliss, that he did a YouTube video with, and there's like a moment where he goes and picks her up and they go back to his crib together, right? And she's eating a full fucking plate that his chef made of like rotisserie chicken and
Right.
all this food. It looks amazing. It looks so good. And then Eneli Choppa is literally just eating a massive plate of fruit.
Yeah, he's on a raw.
All fruit.
It's a raw veggie diet. So he only eats stuff that's uncooked.
Yeah.
Vegetables and fruits. That's it.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like I could eat that scumbags box full of fucking fruit right now, and it would fill me up like 1%. Like that is just fruit does not fill me up like that. Like maybe his body has changed from being on the fruit diet for so long, but I don't think that would.
It kind of makes you want to keep eating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I gotta have a coffee because the coffee kind of will get you through another 3 or 4 hours.
Fruit is like the thing that I'll eat a little bit of after I eat a bunch of protein and
Right.
carbs or whatever.
So you're not doing like full like keto or nothing.
Nah, but I just eat like really healthy in general. And I don't even know that much about my diet because I have a meal prep place that just gives me like different protein with vegetables every day, like a couple meals a day. So I make myself bacon and eggs and then I eat that shit. So like people are always like, what are your macros? Like what percentage of fat are you having in the meal? I'm like, I don't
I just
know.
eat what I'm given.
Yeah.
And then you make your eggs. That you had like a TikTok that went viral with just scrambled eggs, right?
Which is, yeah, TikTok going viral that I'm just like, this is what I've been eating every day for 20 years. And I'm just like, this went viral of all fucking things. That's what I hate about that platform. I took my girl snowboarding for Valentine's Day for the first time, and I fucking did a bunch of nice shit in the video and stuff. 50,000 views.
Fuck
Did
yeah.
not do it.
Kudos to you because I have yet to commit to like learn. Like I put clips on TikTok, but like making a TikTok
Yeah.
myself, I'm just not sure. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not even sure how much longer. But it's kind of like the same thing as a reel now.
Yeah, well, now if you're going to make one, you might as well post it on those
On
two
both.
and shorts. But the problem
YouTube
is
Shorts.
All right, so we saw a little light at the end of the tunnel for a little bit because it was like, oh, they're going to monetize YouTube Shorts. And then it's like, oh, if you get 30 million views, you will make like $1,000.
Yeah, because I got some
bullshit.
I got a short up there that I think it's got like 7 million views or some shit with Iman Shumpert, and that shit has maybe made like fucking $400. I'm like,
Really?
what the fuck?
So even that's pretty fucking good. Yeah, $400.
Something. It was like just something where it's like, you know, if this was a long form, how much money is a $7 million view fucking interview going to make you if it's over 10 minutes? You know what I mean?
But how do you feel when you see somebody else clip your shit and put it on TikTok and it's got 20 million views?
It
and
happens
it's not
a
even
lot.
tagging you. You're not even
I hate that
referenced.
shit.
So it happens a lot, but I also look at it as like free promotion for me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? It's just kind of part of the game. Like I could be a bitch about it and like complain, or like it's kind of just promoting my shit more, you know? So, I mean, and like really what can I do except for report it? And then it's like, is it worth me like going out on my way to fucking flag some dude's shit? Like, I don't know, dude.
It's just such a hustle for so many people now.
It's definitely a hustle. Just repurposing content
I
is
see
a
people
fucking
all the time.
hustle.
Yeah.
Not a bad hustle either.
At least you could do that shit, man. I had a joke go viral on TikTok, and I go to this stand-up club to do a set. Somebody is in there telling my fucking joke.
Shut up. Really?
Dude, I waited outside that spot. I was about to beat this dude's ass.
And you didn't run into him?
Nah, he took forever to come out that shit. So
You
I
were
just
over it?
left. Yeah,
So
I left.
you actually do stand up.
Yeah, I do stand-up
Oh,
comedy.
okay, yeah.
What was the joke concerning?
Basically, I said that I lost so much money in crypto, I almost joined the Pyrus. And
That's a good joke.
That's
it's
good.
a great fucking
That's
joke.
funny.
It's
Okay.
great.
And then he put like a whole a different build up, a different like setup and shit premise, but still got to the same punchline. And then like he knew what the fuck was going on because I told him like I went straight to his table. I'm like, dude, that's my fucking joke. I'm gonna see you outside. And I said outside.
And what he said, but did he seem like he was down with it or that he was like ducking it?
At first he was just like, oh, dude, because I took my glasses off and I was just like, dude, that's my fucking joke. And then he's, oh shit, that's you. Like he basically,
So he admitted to
fessed
stealing
up to
it.
that shit immediately.
That's crazy if he admitted it because as a comedian, I feel like you have a ton of plausible deniability.
Right.
Because something like crypto crashing is like,
We all can make up jokes about something that's that
there's
big.
50,000 people online trying to think of a joke about the crypto
Right.
crash. So like the idea that like somebody else could land on the Pyru joke instead or whatever, I could see
My
it.
shit had 40 million views on
See,
one
yeah,
platform.
that's tough, too. Yeah.
Another 3 million on Instagram. Like it was clearly my
Stealing
shit.
jokes in the stand up world is like fucking. It's like saying the fucking N word or something. It's like the no. Like,
But
you
it's
know what
weird
I'm
too
saying?
because it's like you probably aren't going to say the N word by accident.
Yeah.
True.
Not everybody can
Unless you're
say
singing
that.
along to a rap song.
Yeah.
But
And
this
you're
is,
like, oh,
well, even then though, we know. We
this
know
is
how to
like
hold
some
back on
old
that,
guy
right?
from Chicago too. Like you could
He was
tell.
old?
He was old. He was older than you. He had to be like 45 or some shit like that.
Oh,
so I'm not
wow.
saying
Dead.
old, but he was older. So you could tell he went to like some kids' platform trying to rustle up some jokes, think he could use it around other older people when the fucking originator's sitting right in the crowd waiting to go up after you.
That's happened to me on Twitter where I was thinking about making a joke and then I like caught myself and thought, has someone else made this joke? I bet somebody else has made this joke. And then I go search a couple of key terms,
pops up.
find some guy with 20,000 likes because I also don't trust myself because I don't know if I saw it.
And you didn't. It's just
You know, like
subconsciously. Yeah.
One time I said to my friend, I'm like, oh my God, I have the best idea. A bar full of arcade games and you call it Barcade.
Ah, shit.
He goes, that's already a bar in Brooklyn. What the fuck are you talking
Yeah,
about?
it is. They got
and I'm
one out
like,
here.
oh shit.
There's one in
'Cause-
San Diego. There's one in North Hollywood.
right. It's almost certain that I heard about it, forgot I heard about it, and then thought of it as if it was my own idea.
But it's also like a low hanging fruit idea. Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
if we put video games in a bar and called it a barcade? Like, a million people could have thought of that without ever
Also,
hearing of
that's
it.
some white shit, bro. Christopher Columbus did that same thing. This is something that's inherently,
This is what we do.
yeah.
No, I the other day I saw this girl Carmen Carmel. I know this porn star. She said, I'm sure you know all about her since you're a little perv.
Who?
No, okay. Carmen Karma.
By the way, a little perv.
She's new.
No idea who that
is. She tweeted, "I identify as a munch," and I was like, "Whoa!" And I searched Twitter for "I identify as a munch" because I tweeted that like in August or some shit. I was like, we both tweeted the same stupid fucking joke, and I bet that if I searched harder, I could find like 50 other people who said the same joke.
Because identifying as anything is hilarious, and then when you add munch in it, that's like two worlds coming together. It's low hanging fruit. However, it's very funny.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I saw like one of the, I think it was like Variety or something, put a tweet up about the lady who won Best Actress, and it said the first actress to identify as an Asian.
This, yeah.
I was like, no, she's Asian.
Oh shit!
But did you see the follow up to this?
Nuh-uh.
So Twitter, like, it can add notes, like community notes is what it's called, where they can like basically add a correction to it or whatever. There was some other woman in the 50s or 60s or whatever who won an Oscar, was Asian, but did not publicly identify
And
as
embrace it.
Asian. She said that she was white, or she like made some efforts to hide it because back then she might have like not won the award if
Or
she was
gotten more
telling
work.
people she was Asian. Yeah, like
Right.
it was a much more racist time. So I saw that and I was like, oh, so there is a reason why they phrased it like that, which is kind of reasonable, but also like maybe you could have like explained that in the tweet
Right.
instead of calling
I just
him.
saw that and I was like, because I thought about that white dude who tried to turn himself into a Korean guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
He got all those surgeries from the UK. I was like, damn, that dude's like, we got one.
Turns out that guy wasn't so right in the head.
I mean,
Obviously.
yeah.
No shit, Sherlock.
Yeah, but everybody like there was definitely like a bit of people wanting to be like, well, maybe he can identify as Korean.
Speaking of transracial, did you know that Rachel Dolezal has an OnlyFans?
I heard about that.
did,
Did you
yeah.
subscribe?
I'm not that curious. I've seen white pussy before, because at the end of the day, that's what the fuck she is. She's a white woman.
And she's an old white lady.
I see old white pussy before. We
Is
was
she
just
really
talking
white?
about it.
I
Yeah,
believe
she is,
so.
bro.
With that name.
She just wear low SPF and she get her hair braided. That's all. She's a
Listen.
white woman though.
If she identifies as a woman of color, who am I to say otherwise?
That's what the fuck we not gonna do. That's what we not gonna do. Rachel, you better go your ass home and keep popping that pussy.
What if we found out that Rachel like really? Well, no, I'm gonna take that
I'm
back.
sure she
We
did the
already know all we need to
33andMe
know.
to try to be like, look, guys, look, I got 2%.
That's what Keemstar did, and he found out he was like 1.5% black.
My boy Cyrus just did his 33andMe, and his whole life he thought he was white and Mexican, and he found out he's like 40% Jewish. So,
How the fuck you 40% of
so
a
listen,
religion?
so check this shit out, or whatever. Like,
Also an ethnic group.
nah, but like it was like something Jewish, like some part of I don't know.
Maybe
Right.
he's like Israeli or something.
So he pretty much came to the conclusion that his grandma's neighbor, they always thought his grandma was cheating on his grandpa with the neighbor who's Jewish. And so that pretty much confirmed that his grandma was fucking getting dicked down out here in these streets by the Jewish neighbor. And now my boy is
Why you say his grandma was getting dick down?
yeah, well, and now I told him, I said, now you got to lean into it. Because he's in the music industry. He's an up-and-coming producer, engineer. I'm like, bro, you better get that iced out Star of David and run that shit up, bro. Like,
Yeah, for real. And he thought he was white and Mexican.
Yeah.
I can't even actually say his last name, but fuck
Flores.
Florenstein.
If I was
Florenstein.
Jewish, like if I found out right now that I was 40% Jewish, I don't think anything changes for me.
I'm getting
the
right
Jews
on the
don't give a
plane.
fuck.
I'm going to Israel, bro. I'm gonna go tap in with my
Facts.
people,
If I'm 20%,
and they'll pay for the trip. I heard.
if I'm 20% Jewish, I'm banging West Side Judaism all day.
Fuck, I'm outside, bro.
You
For
see
sure.
White Lotus?
I saw the first 2 or 3 episodes.
Turn it off if you don't want to spoil it. But the basic gist of it is that like one of the guys on the show finds out that his dad was gay and died of HIV. And
Oh,
he
shit.
went his whole life thinking that his dad died of
I didn't
cancer.
see that part, so thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. This is one little tidbit of the show, but that was pretty crazy because like, and it's funny too because he has like a teenage daughter who's like questioning him on the fact that he even cares. He's like
Right.
basically calling him homophobic for the fact that he even like feels any sort of way about
Like
this.
your dad was the same guy. He was
Because
just
that's what your fucking kids are going to turn into. Not yours, but like just kids in
Right.
general. They're going to become fucking weird ass, like antagonistic Twitter type people that are going to
In
basically,
real life.
yeah, like just seeing that and being like, holy fuck, I would be so mad at my kid if they felt like they could talk to me like that.
But that's how it is already. Like my mother is from a whole different generation. Like she don't say lesbian, she call them bull daggers.
bull daggers.
I've heard bull dyke. What's
Bull
a bull
dyke's a thing.
dagger?
A bull dagger is basically like
A bull dagger.
a dyke, but it's like some old school, like retro
By the way,
offensive shit.
is that word similar to the F word?
Dyke?
No, yeah, Dyke's
No, the
okay,
thing
right?
I have people got on my case for saying it before.
Okay, I don't know.
I choose
I
to
heard him
not
say
care. but-
studs and I heard him say statties.
I know
or
Stud's fine,
stunkles.
Statties.
but
Yeah.
Dyke is kind of like the word that you would kind of like. It's obviously it's supposed to be an insult, right?
They got such hard
I don't
syllables
think it's supposed to
in
be
it.
an insult. Because, okay, the thing about when you say faggy is that it's not supposed to be like a critique of a super specific type of gay guy, right?
Right.
I think dyke is a specific archetype that we're referring to, right?
Yeah. Well,
So I
mean,
don't know if it's offensive in the same
So when
way.
I think of a stud, I think of like Queen Latifah and Set It Off or Young M.A., right?
Right.
So is a dyke supposed to be like similar?
Yeah, I think those are the same thing.
Okay.
And if you real woke, it's masculine presenting.
That's one thing that on the Oscars, they kind of like dip and dodge having to say anything about like women. It's like, you know, like there was a couple different speeches that I caught, and it was very loud in that house, so I was missing out on crucial pieces of dialogue, but it's a lot of like identify as a woman.
Oh,
They don't
my
want to say
gosh.
like a woman. But
Yeah.
they don't go as far with it as you might think if you're terminally on Twitter like I am. It's not like every instance of the word woman has to be turned into identifying as a woman.
Yeah, like, yeah, I don't know, bruh. So that's why I'm just so careful about, because, you know, I'm not trying to get canceled in these streets. I'm on like 25 radio stations now. These
Have you been close in recent memory though?
No, I mean, I think that for the most part, I've kind of been able to kind of fly under the radar of being, getting people too pissed off at me.
I called Bruce
good.
Jenner Bruce Gender by accident, and that shit fucked me up, man. Like it was on camera.
People were mad?
People was mad because I said Bruce Gender. They thought I
When
was
was
trying
this?
to be funny. This was like November.
On stage or on a TikTok or?
It was on the clip that I posted on TikTok. It was from a
Bruce
podcast.
Gender?
Yeah, I called him Bruce Gender.
I
mean-
think at this point, after Bruce Jenner murdered somebody with their car,
He's fair game. She's
Yeah.
fair game.
like we're just gonna joke on you after
Ken,
that.
what's Bruce Jenner's? What's the new name?
Caitlyn.
Caitlyn.
Oh, well, you
You
fucked
said
me up
Bruce.
because I was trying to say the right one, and instead I said the dead name. God damn it! Video demonetized. We just dead named somebody.
Damn, is that what that's
Is that what?
called?
Yeah.
I
What is-
forgot that it was guy to girl. I thought it was girly guy for a second.
Wait, so hold on. When you call somebody by their old name, with
You're
they
dead naming them, and it's violence.
dead name?
That is violence.
Because that name is dead.
yeah,
Okay. So
which I get. You know, if I've been
Caitlyn Jenner.
Adam my whole life, and all of a sudden I'm Kylie,
But
Right.
don't run up on me saying Adam. Although I guess I understand.
But he
you
told
know.
his daughters they could still call him dad. Well, she told her daughters they could still call them dad. This is getting to be a lot, man. I feel like, damn.
But they're
man.
not a they them. It's a she now.
Sometimes I don't. I just
She-
be like, I don't want to be here anymore. You know what I'm saying? What are we doing here, guys? like,
Yeah.
like you don't even have the room to make a mistake, and it's like a genuine mistake. It's not like a hateful mistake or like I'm not going like my one of my managers, Brian Sampson, I don't even want to. Brian Sampson just started mentoring somebody who is non-binary. So this person had to educate him. He's a harsh guy. He's like 56. He's harsh as fuck. So he's like, yeah, today, like I had to learn about this. He's like, dude, I know I'm gonna fuck that up. And I'm like, yeah, but like that should be expected.
Right.
Like you should have, to me, you should have some sort of leeway to kind of like,
Yeah.
There's just a lot to remember because even on Instagram, when you change your pronouns, you can set that shit to he/she.
I noticed you're a they them.
Yeah, I'm fucking with people.
Danny asked me about that.
The funny thing is when who was it that was on drugs? Demi Lovato, and then she turned to they them.
for a little bit. Then she
But
went
then she
back.
took it
Oh,
back.
she's back now.
Yeah, she's back.
That was the end of me ever giving a fuck about anybody being a they them.
But
if you could
anytime-
just take it back. Oh, I'm sorry. It has to be the same rules as gangbanging. You got to do it before you're 18, and then you can never take it back.
Or you got to get fucking, you got to get don't they jump you when you leave a gang?
Oh, and I love that. You should have to definitely get. Well, I guess the surgery is the jumping in, right?
when I did
The
that
double
shit,
mastectomy.
You get the fucking reversed.
We're not going to beat the shit out of you. We're going to remove your tits.
when I did that shit, I actually demanded that people refer to me as a plural, so it wasn't he, it was them. And then when I was on, my Instagram stuff, I'm like, we're having steak for dinner and shit like that.
But yo, I know a person, like the only person that I've known in my life who is really on the they them, and I don't even know him that well. I've only been around him a couple of times, but they looked very like,
It's a toss up.
They themish.
It's a toss up.
very like masculine body, but then the hair's grown out and they're kind of wearing like girlish clothes and stuff. And in that case, I found it very, I didn't have to use it talking to them, but then like talking about them afterwards, I found it very easy to use the they and them.
Because it made sense to you.
Because the he and the she didn't make any fucking sense to
makes
me in
sense.
my head, So it was
Yeah.
actually kind of easy for me to use it because I honestly wasn't looking at them as
either.
because they were blurring the line.
To avoid
It was a
that-
wobbler, if you will.
To avoid that, I just say the person's name. So let's say it's Adam. I will never say he. I will say
Adam.
Adam is bringing Adam's girlfriend. To the, like, just always use your name in reference of you instead of pronouns.
I'm gonna be real though. I don't feel like you're meeting a lot of trans people in the club in Scottsdale.
But not. I mean, I don't know, man.
Not that they wouldn't be welcome,
They're welcome at 1111
Sure
in
they're
Scottsdale.
welcome.
Everyone is welcome at 1111 in Scottsdale.
but sometimes you're having
Including-
conversations with people on here, and you're kind of like people are talking about encountering trans people as if it like happens a lot more than it seems like it actually does. But then, like in New York City,
I mean, I lived off.
I
Santa
see a lot.
I lived off Santa Monica, so the shit
oh
happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
But those are criminals. Those are vagrants. I'm gonna be real with you. Like you got like people who are like only dressing, like only cross dressing because that's their best way of making money is to wear a skirt and then go sell some pussy.
I knew you was gonna get that
Did you
shit
get the
off.
pussy?
I knew you was gonna get that shit off.
Boy
Nah,
pussy.
Yeah.
Boy pussy.
The asshole of a male.
Because who was that talking about the boy? They were talking about
Their watch. I can't remember who it was. It was some
the bust
drill
down.
rapper. Yeah.
and he goes, I got the big bussy on me,
And you're like, sir,
sir.
sir.
That doesn't mean
That's
what
a
you
boy
think.
pussy.
As soon as I heard that shit, I was like, "Hey, yo, what the fuck?"
You have a
Like,
boy pussy on your wrist. Did you fist this? Did you fist this man?
That's like
Oh,
our
it
vlog.
goes
That's
further.
our vlog, and I didn't even notice it when I watched it the first time until I saw it on your story or whatever.
Dude, as soon as I saw it, I uncasted it from the TV. I recorded that shit. I said, "Oh no, this is gold." He's like some gangster, but he don't even
know.
know what pussy is.
He has no idea about gay shit, which for some reason we know all about.
Right.
But that's what it is. If you want to have conversations about shit on camera, you kind of have to know about like whatever everybody else is doing, or else you're going to be pretty fucking limited, right?
Yeah.
True. I just talked about this thing on the radio show. There's like some Catholic like fucking I don't know what they are, like mercenary group that like spent $4 million to like they paid Grindr and they paid all these other apps that are similar to try to seek out priests that were on these apps. And so like imagine paying $4 million to try to like find out if and it's not even like the official Catholic Church. It was like some like fucking
So what's the plan? To just make sure all these priests get off, or to
no
exile
to
them
exile
from
them or to like I don't know or to
expose
identify
them,
who's
smear them,
who's
use it
on the
against
internet
them?
trying to fuck.
So they mad because they trying to fuck adults.
Correct. It's like if I'm them, I'm spending $4 million to figure out who the fuck's getting apartments across the street from elementary schools.
That's what I'm thinking. Like that would make sense to me. But
like.
the
Let them
idea
fuck
that,
adults.
Yeah.
Like we don't want them fucking kids.
Listen, if you're a priest and you want to fuck dudes on the side and not get caught, shouldn't they just accept that?
Of course.
Yeah.
Right?
God bless
it's
you.
the children we got to. By the way, can we? Speaking of the kids thing, this whole by the way, I'm really happy that you guys have shat on Charleston White as much as you have because he's a real cocksucker.
Yeah, fuck that dude.
And I understand he's being extremely racist towards Asians to the point where it's like insane that this guy is even on social media anymore. But I feel like it's not being talked about enough that he's literally advocating the raping of children
Asian
and babies. He said he
Yeah.
wanted to sodomize Asian babies.
And use them as alligator bait.
Go to my Twitter right now if you want to see the video. Us playing it would probably be a horrible idea. We'll get removed for hate speech or something. But I quote tweeted the video on No Jumper, and I just said, "You feel like this is as bad as it's going to get." Like 6 different times during the thing because he keeps saying worse shit and he ends it with the Asian baby thing. I mean, I'm sorry, like I don't love cancel culture. I don't like seeing Dave Chappelle not be able to do comedy at a certain
canceled.
club. That shit, no venue in the world should condone that kind of
No
stuff.
podcast
Like,
should have him on.
But what crowd is gonna be like, yeah, like even the
he's
crowd
still-
is
but
gonna be
people are-
pissed
do
about
love
that.
No, and
but I'm
people-
saying if he says that on stage,
Yeah, but I don't think you're gonna say that on stage. He probably would have gave a like cleaned up version of himself on
The
stage with
craziest shit is, I
Academics,
think
right?
when you guys posted on No Jumper, I just was like, let me take a peek in these comments.
Yeah.
And there was like maybe 5% of the comments that were like, well, you know, Asians don't fuck with black people. And it's like, wait, did you not hear where he talked about sodomizing a fucking baby? Like, are we just not? And this guy's also talked about raping females online, like that he's done it. So I'm like, why do people still have, why would Academics decide to do a show with him prior to that video? Like, I don't understand how this guy's a thing. Like, he's obviously a shitty
I think
human being.
somebody like Ack, I think up until this was able to kind of ignore that, you know? But
Like
then
it-
like, because, all right, if Academics does, well, yeah, because like Ack's interviewing him on Spotify. So is he going to like not be allowed on Spotify? Because you could imagine that if there was a real campaign by like anti-Asian hate groups, I bet that they could fucking get Spotify to be like, Ack, we're not hosting interviews with Charleston White anymore.
The anti-Asian hate group shit, but also the fucking kids. Like, guys, what like to me, the Asian hate shit is insane. And he said shit as, I mean, maybe not as bad, but he said extremely racist shit about Asians before that I was like, why are morning shows still having him come up? Why are fucking podcasts still having this asshole on? Like, he's literally on video talking about taking a bitch's pussy before. Now he's advocating sodomizing infants. That's not something to joke about. Like, fuck
that's
out of
wild.
here, bro.
Yeah.
I think people are putting the numbers first, man. Because
Nah, that shit's trash.
When I tried to interview him a year ago, 2 years ago, his literal quote was, I don't fuck with white boys like Adam 22 who aren't racist. I only want white boys around me who are racist. And I've been thinking about that ever since. Like,
and,
damn.
and you ain't been using that as proof when people keep calling you racist.
I mean, it did feel kind of good. I'm like, oh, so I
Well,
don't
at
get
least
the
you don't think I'm
interview,
racist.
Yeah,
at least
right.
You don't think I'm racist. I guess that's a lot better than what I have to read all the time on Twitter and stuff of people who
Wasn't-
clearly think
wasn't-
I am like a Klansman.
Wasn't
So,
Charleston White on Cam Capone?
what race is Cam Capone?
I'm not sure. I never seen him.
That guy's not on camera, is he?
Nah, I don't think so.
It's like that one. What's the dude's name? The Swamp Stories guy. Like, I don't think we'll ever know who that guy really is.
Yeah, but nobody's gonna kill Cam Capone
Yeah,
They might kill Swamp Stories.
at this point. Yeah, Swamp Stories could really die. He knows that too.
the war in Cali too.
Man, Swamp Stories got a huge boner right now because we just dropped an interview where a rapper was talking about him. Every time that happens, I'm sure
He's like, yeah.
Is that the guy that goes? He's like, bang.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is funny because like I watch so many YouTube channels and I feel like I haven't really seen that many channels that have had to like really change the way they speak so much to avoid getting punished by the algorithm.
Right.
But you could tell that there was a certain point where he was saying stuff like, and then Reginald blah 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 walked up to the car and got so and so shot him in the head and fled the scene, and like that was the stuff that was getting his videos demonetized. So he switched to the bam.
Then bang.
Yeah.
Because then you can't get demonetized for saying
For
bang.
real. And it's cool because he basically tells the whole story. It's just like he walked up to the car and then bang. And then they'll be like, rest in peace, so and so. So
Kind of
it's like,
sucks because I feel like I'm missing out on a lot of information when that happens. It's
Right.
like because I'm like halfway paying attention. I can't remember the name of the guy who's died or
And
versus
he
the guy
shits
who
on
killed
so
him.
many cities.
Oh yeah,
He's like, yeah, in fucking San Diego, whoever. Like, I'm like, Jesus, bro. Like, it's real everywhere. Relax.
Yeah, I
he
wouldn't
loves to
play
tell you
around
that a
San
city is
Diego.
pussy.
For sure. I'm like, dude. I also like kind of envy a guy like that, or just these like automated YouTube channels where they just fucking pump out fucking content without having to like be known,
Yeah.
and they're just raking in money. Yeah. Like, I'm like, why didn't I think of putting a 10-hour fucking fireplace clip up on YouTube
Oh
first?
my god, that
yeah.
shit.
That's
That's the
just free
ultimate
money.
The kids channels. I hear they don't make that much money anymore because they like can't really run advertising efficiently on them. But that shit would be crazy when I'm like just sort of scrolling through how much video content Miss Rachel is dropping on YouTube, and the fact that they have live streams of their content, just replaying the content all the time. It's like when me and you decided we want to get into content, or we fucking didn't even consider for a second, like, oh, I could just not put my face on camera and just think up a great idea.
Yeah.
I had this idea I'm trying to convince one of my friends to do. And I don't know if anyone, it's kind of like, I guess, what the soft white, or is it hard white underbelly?
Soft
white
white.
underbelly dude.
We gotta get Court on there.
But I was thinking,
Yeah, that'd be dope. I always said I wanted to be on there. I always said I wouldn't have sex with somebody who's on there though.
No,
it
I
could be
have
already happening again.
many times.
It might not be that great of an idea.
Yeah.
But if somebody just went and did like an MTV Crib style tour of homeless people's tents, like where you go, you talk to the person, they show you like their tent. This is where I take a shit. This is where I fucking like. I feel like that shit would go up on YouTube.
Only the best fucking tents though. Like you gotta have shelving and
Have
shit
you,
in that
dude?
motherfucker.
There's
Seen
so
some
many of
nice
those out
ones.
here. It's insane. So it's like I feel like you came from New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, the New York homeless shit is different. I feel like
Oh,
'cause
yeah,
I was
that
just
shit is
there.
whack.
They gotta
just-
struggle.
Out here, these motherfuckers is for real. They got whole condos, bro. Like
Nah,
under
this is
bridges
the big
and shit.
leagues out here.
I saw the most professional tent the other day in Hollywood. Like in the middle of like it was the kind of tent where you would almost need like this whole room to set it up.
Right.
And this guy had set it up on the middle of like a curb island that was shaped like a triangle.
Oh, shit.
Because it was too big. It wouldn't fit on the average curb, or if it did, it would be making it so that nobody could walk on the curb and the cops would shut it down. This motherfucker found the perfect fucking
Perfect real
triangle
estate.
to just plant this shit down. Can I tell you about something else insane that I just read online? So I see a tweet, and it's a tweet longer link. It's got mad likes and quote tweets and everything. So I'm just like, all right, what is this? And I realize it's a suicide note from a trans person.
Oh fuck.
And this is how the shit went down, is that basically like she met, I'm going to fuck up the details, but she met this person who she became convinced was like their friend and that they wanted to like help them and stuff in life. And as time goes by, she starts to realize that this person actually had been hired by her parents to try to convince her to detransition.
Damn.
And she like,
Did she end up killing herself?
yeah.
That's terrible, man.
And I don't remember the girl's name. You could probably fucking Google this and figure it out. But I'm like, what the fuck?
So she's thinking like this person is a really close friend, like they real close and shit. And she
Reaching
finds
out to her, trying to help her, or like trying to help her with some stuff or
The
whatever.
parents hired her.
The parents hired her. And then she fucking killed herself and put it on Twitter first.
Damn.
That's terrible, man. Rest
Some
in
real
peace.
lighthearted shit to end this with. I should probably know their name. That would be like a lot better if in the future. Like that's why goals for this is like that's what I want to do. I want to have like shit ready, pulled up, so that we can really like get
we
into
can look
decent
at
depth.
it,
So it's
read
not
it,
just
yeah.
me reiterating this random anecdote. I'm probably gonna find out this didn't even happen.
Little pre-planning, get the Jamie from Rogan thing going with Josh.
Yeah.
Yo, Josh, pull this up.
2 days later, bang.
There it is. There it is.
You have that?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
I just got one of these TVs though. I kind of because I just moved into a new building,
Right.
so I was like, I like the TV
I've been ducking your pod now.
on
I
the
owe you.
rollers. Not really ducking it. I mean, you were on like a year and some change ago, but yeah. I mean, I think I asked you once.
You asked me
Twice.
like a couple weeks ago, or no, it was like kind of like right after the house phone thing, and I was kind of like,
I think it was right before.
I think it was right after because that was my concern. It's just like, I don't
Oh
wanna-
yeah. See, you understand. I'm not gonna fuck. See, my whole thing is if someone comes on my shit, for the most part, like I'm not going to. If it's something that's like super personal like that, like I feel like that was like that's your friend,
Yeah.
and I feel like that the severity of what happened with him, to me, is something that I have no business talking about.
That's respectable.
Just me,
I would ask
because I can understand. Why
if
can
I were you and I wasn't me, I would ask.
But like I don't know House Phone, but I met him a couple of times, and I can only understand that like something like that, like I'm not gonna do anything by adding to this guy's embarrassment
Yeah.
or perceived. And I'm not saying he's embarrassed at all because he shouldn't be.
right.
But in terms of like that fiasco, by the time he would have came on my shit, it was like, dude, you guys have talked about this as much as possible.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird when you go on people's podcasts these days and you just can tell that they have like their question list has been formulated to be the most viral things possible. There's no real like pretending that it's a real interview or like
Right.
we're going to talk about your career or anything. It's just like, nope. First question, let's talk about this beef. Boom. Second question, let's talk about this beef. Like it's fucking
Yeah, like I just had MB Nell on, and I was supposed to have EBK Young Jock on like a couple days later, and like I like the Stockton hip hop scene is pretty violent, you know.
Oh yeah.
And you know, the dude Slowby passed away.
Yeah.
But my thing was like, is it really worth me adding to? I don't understand the full dynamics of Stockton. I'm not also fully privy or hip to like all of the intricacies of their beefs, right? So when I had MB Nell on, like I didn't ask him about like on purpose, like, hey, so what's your problem with the EBK dude? Because I got him coming on in 2 days, so like, you know, because I know people have actually died, right? And I also, you know, I do a lot of business with Empire, and there's a great chance I'm going to go shoot content in Stockton. So I'm like, man, I don't want to be the guy that like you could point to my shit and be like, this is where a chain of events might have happened where somebody died, or I added anything. And there's, if I was fully like hip to the context of the situation, and I feel like I could ask a question like that in a tasteful way and not add any more fire to the situation, I might have. But I'm like, man, I'm just gonna leave that shit alone.
My thing is like, I feel like there's a big difference between asking about other rappers that they have issues with, and when you ask about street shit that is like different hoods that they don't get along with or whatever,
right.
And it's like a blanket thing where like if you add like, because I see that a lot in interviews where it's like, or even the Crip Mac shit.
I was just about to say that.
People were asking Crip Mac like after I did the first interview with him and we kept it pretty smooth.
Is he still in jail?
Yeah,
okay.
But he's supposed to get out soon. Like, you know, we asking him some shit, but it's not like I'm naming the gang this that he has issues with and stuff. And then I'm watching other people interview with him, and it's like they're just literally naming the hoods that he beefs with and saying, "So what about this? Like, why do you not like them?"
Yeah. So
and
my thing is like
on,
if I even get to that part with somebody, like I'll try to have them kind of explain the bigger politics of it. So where if I'm interviewing like a Mexican artist from Northern California or from the South Side or whatever, I'll just be like, hey, so for people who aren't from California, who don't understand what this is, like what's the origination of like why the Northerners and the Southerners don't like each other. And then it's like, they kind of break down, well, you know, some jail shit, it's some prison politics. And so as opposed to kind of like getting into the specifics, or I'll just bring up like, hey, I had Swifty Blue on, which went viral because he said that shit about not wanting to sign with another race.
Oh my God, that was so viral, yeah.
But then
I
had
got a lot of mileage out of that for a few weeks.
Well, I had the Bozo guy on who he's got beef with, but I was like, hey, I know So in my interview with Bozo, I was like, hey, I know Swifty Blue. You know, he's always been a good dude. He's always booked my studio. You're kind of like an OG. Is there ever a world in which maybe you kind of put your arm around him and try to give him some game as opposed to having like a, you know, kind of like a problem? And like, you know, I'd rather approach it in that direction. You know what I'm saying? Or like when I had Fulio and Young and Ace on, and I just asked like, yo, what's the end game here? Like, you know, how can you guys put this shit behind you? So many people have died on each side. Like, what's the point of continuing the cycle? You know what I mean? And but like you said, like you'll see other platforms where it's like they're like, ugh, they're twisting the knife instead of trying to take the knife out.
Because if you're total trash at interviewing, that might be all you have.
That might be literally all you have. Like Matt, I just had Mac 10 on, which is doing great for us because it's the first interview he's done in a while. But
Full disclosure, I'm doing one with them soon.
Dope.
I think. I don't know.
So like me, I was like, you know what? I'm a huge Mac 10 fan, right? So I'm like, there's so much stuff I could talk to Mac 10 about that doesn't involve allegations of him beating up T-Boz.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm like, you know what? I could bring that up, and the interview and the whole energy of our conversation is gonna change. But he's talked about it so much that it's like, what's the point of me taking a conversation that if you watch the interview we had, it was super positive and it's doing great. Like it's doing numbers. And like throwing a wrench in it when I know it's just gonna change, because who wants to talk about their ex-wife and allegations of abuse? Nobody wants to talk about that, especially when he just dropped his first new song in 14 years and I'm the first interview that he's done in like a few years. So it's like, you know what? You've already talked about that on Vlad.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm gonna bring up the Ice Cube shit. Like, hey, but
there's been a bunch of times where I was gonna interview somebody and I thought like, oh, there's this thing I'm gonna talk to them all about, and then I watched them on Vlad from a couple years before. I watched them do some other interview, and I just kind of like scope the fact that they weren't super comfortable talking about it, or that, you know, maybe they did. They laid it all out in perfect detail. Like, I'm sorry, after the baby went on Vlad and the Breakfast Club and told the story about shooting the guy in the Walmart,
like he's already told it.
How are you going to ask him again?
Yeah, it's like, okay, can you tell the story? Like for people who don't know.
Because it's all about what you put yourself out there like as an interviewer. And if I ask the baby, like, so tell me what happened in that Walmart, I am presenting as, I am a person who identifies as a dumbass. Because if
he's already said it there's millions of views.
If you're paying attention to the culture at all, if you've done any research about the baby, you know that this is a well-treaded topic and that he's not going to want to talk about it. So it's like, yeah, that kind of thing is like amateur interviewer versus experienced interviewer shit, I think.
Do you feel like, because I did notice that like you were having a lot more, I mean, at least I perceive them to be like random gang members on the show sometimes. Where I'd be like, yo, who the fuck is this guy? Oh, he's just a gang member. Like, I've noticed, like, maybe I haven't been paying attention enough. Have you gotten away from that?
I would say that, like,
or made a decision to kind of,
if you're a gangbanger who's not a rapper, you would have to like really have like a very interesting story or like is a very engaging personality for us to want to do that. I think
like the Crip Mac thing makes sense because he's hilarious.
Yeah, he was just so funny that I wanted to meet him. And honestly, I didn't really like have the highest expectations for that podcast. I just was like, I have to meet this guy and I might as well do it on camera.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a part of me where getting a little too close to some of the street shit over the years, I've been like, all right, maybe I don't need to be doing this. Like, this is just not.
Yeah, you got a daughter now.
It's not moving the needle enough.
People know
us.
exactly where you're. Well, especially the old spot. People knew exactly where your old office was.
Way too easy to get in there.
You know, and yeah, at least now it's kind of like Fort Knox in here.
Yep, feel pretty secure now. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like sometimes content feels like it's worth it, and then you like kind of have to deal with the ramifications of it, and you're just like, oh, like maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I'd rather just have fun conversations with the homies and do some interviews and whatever. Like I just don't have to go that hard with it.
Dude, like that Swifty Blue shit, I was like getting so much blowback from that interview because I kept trying to give him outs, you know?
Yeah.
And but there was, for whatever reason, people were still like, you know, fucking, they were like, it was like a racial thing. And I wasn't trying to add to whatever perceived racial tension was going on at that time because there was the American Cholo thing happening and there was all these people protesting at Power 106 and then that shit comes out, right? And the Tyga, that Tyga song.
They took it down.
Do you remember that shit?
Yeah, that shit was crazy.
That was
like,
all we talked about for a minute.
So like that interview comes out and that one part of the interview seemed to like flare up what was already happening.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't want that interview to come out, but I kind of got pressed by Swifty to drop it.
Really?
What?
You knew it was going to be that controversial?
Bro, I could show you the text between me, Rosecrans, Vic, and I literally was like, bro, I don't want this.
What was Vic saying? Vic didn't want it to come out either, or he wanted it to?
So essentially, and me and Swifty had talked about it, like we're cool and shit, but like at the time, he was like, yo, when's my interview coming out? Like, don't, like, you wasting my time type shit. And I was like, bro, I'll drop it, but I don't think it's gonna go like, but at the end of the day, it kind of helped spark whatever, you know, he's kind of the hottest Mexican rapper in LA and he was already kind of booming, but like, I feel like that kind of put him into a trajectory where like the checking in thing comes up and, you know, so, you know, and Swifty's a good dude.
But then I'm not 100% sure, but I heard that there was some bad consequences for him in regards to just talking a lot about that.
I have zero idea. And I
not like getting beat up or anything, but just not being cool with certain people.
I don't know.
I don't know. But that's a question that if I interviewed him tomorrow, like, no, I'm just like, I don't want to talk about who's in what when it comes to
exactly. 100%. That's why I was like, hey,
I'll talk about the Aryan gangs.
But that
instead.
shit though, like the ramifications of me dropping that interview, like I felt that shit for like 3 or 4 days. It was like on me, bro. Like I was like, damn, bro. Like, did I just add to the temperature of like black and brown beef in LA?
Race war.
Like, I don't want that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like that shit had me stressed.
Yeah, and the older I get, the more I'm like,
right,
it's not worth it. Because yeah, I mean, getting into this shit, like I started doing the BMX content, and it started to kind of get where like, oh, so the thumbnail is what determines how many views we get. And the more illegal or crazy looking shit that we do, the more likely that we are to get a lot of fucking views.
right.
And that's just like, it just starts twisting your incentives up right away where it's like, well, maybe we should sneak onto this roof just so that we can get some cool photo for the thumbnail of a guy climbing onto a roof with his bike or whatever, you know? And it's all of a sudden like, you're not doing it for the same reasons that you got into it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure by the time this is out, I'll have a whole new round of commentary on it to engage with.
Yeah, it's 140 something. So I'm sure that oh boy probably went live.
Oh, right. He's been on live for 45 minutes. Yeah.
Damn, I wanted to watch it.
Okay. Appreciate everybody who watched this. See you next Tuesday. Some of you. Who knows who'll be on this couch? Will we have the substitute teacher again? I don't know.
I'm happy to substitute teach.
I think they like
man.
they like Bootleg Kev.
Yeah, Kev is cool.
Good guy. Shout out to Court.
Court,
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
you got to
Fuck
go do some
Court.
open mics, buddy.
Yeah, I'm running it up out here on the comedy shit, man.
I'll have you. My boy Brian Moses does. He does Tuesdays. He does the roast wars at Comedy Store.
Oh, I do that. I do
I'm
that.
sorry.
Yeah, I do some roast shit in New York.
You should tap in with Danny because Danny told me he's been going to like 3 or 4 comedy shows a week.
Yeah, I'm about to start doing that with Prim.
And I want to start going too.
Yeah, run it
Best
up,
day
dude.
ever going to the Comedy Store.
Yeah,
It's
my
the
girl
best
loves
day.
it. That's like such an easy way to get out with my girl and just do something because
And it's like no drama. You just go get some drinks.
couple hours, you get to
Fucking-
sit down.
Even if the comedians are terrible, you get to sit,
You
relax.
get to sit. The
Yeah.
club, when people invite me to the club, it's like, standing up until 2 o'clock in the morning. No.
Yeah. Shout out to my nightclub.
Shout out to 11.
11.
Probably not as cool as the 11 in Miami, right?
Correct. But we're
A little
trying to get
different
there.
vibe.
Definitely a different vibe. We don't have naked women in it.
Oh man.
Appreciate you guys.
Yes,
Much
sir.
love. No
Boom.
jumper. Bow.